Hello, everybody, and welcome to one of the first roundtables we've done in a while. I think the last one was the Goemon roundtable. But tonight, we're talking about the Super NES. And of course, with me, as always, is Mike.
But it's not just me, as you can see. It's a lot of other people, too.
A lot of people coming back from past roundtables, including Forneia. And Kate.
Yeah.
Oh, there you are.
Sorry, my toggle mute wasn't working because I was choking on something.
Oh, okay. Well, yes, Forneia's here and Kate's here.
Hello.
And Kyle's here.
Hello, hello.
And we got Jay, the king of the north himself.
It was also muted.
Yes. But as you can tell, he is here. I mean, we know he's here, but there he is.
I'm always here in spirit. How about that?
Yes.
Hooray.
All right. So, yeah. So here we are. The Super NES. A stream I vowed I'd never do. That you guys never heard about because I never said it on air.
I was going to say, I don't recall you making it a point to advertise this votive of yours.
Well, you know, we're talking about maybe the 8th or 9th greatest console ever to exist.
Here he goes with the thing that he's going for that I knew he would.
Yep.
Look, Rob, I love you. I respect you. You've made some of my favorite pieces of gaming writing ever created, but like I take offense to that. I take offense to that.
Was there ever a Splatterhouse on the Super NES? No, there was not, because Nintendo was too squeaky clean for that until Sega's version of Mortal Kombat outsold theirs by like 3-1, and then all of a sudden they're like, "Okay,
we can do blood and gore."
Mm-hmm. They went from basically calling Sega trash during those violence and video game standard hearings to a year later, hey, look, kids, it's the Butthole Surfers in our commercial.
Thank you for mentioning that. I didn't know who would bring that up. I'm like, is anybody else kind of bothered by that? Like, all of a sudden Nintendo has commercials with fucking Butthole Surfer songs? Like, really?
Look, Daddy, I'm a surfer.
Yeah. Surprised me,
If I may take things in a more wholesome direction.
Go right ahead.
Nintendo actually has porn games on their platforms now.
That's nice.
I remember hearing about that.
This has actually happened on the Switch, yes.
Yes.
I mean, the Switch also has a freaking a version of Night Trap. So like,
Night Trap.
That old video clip of I think it was Howard Phillips being like
Howard Lincoln. No, Phillips had left by then. Yeah.
Sorry, Howard Lincoln. My apologies. Who said, "Oh, Night Trap will never appear on a Nintendo console," and then now you can get. Yeah, no kidding. And now you can freaking get Night Trap on the Nintendo Switch. Like, how weird is that?
Yeah, I know, right?
Time takes some weird directions. You definitely don't want to lay down absolutes like that. I guess it's irrelevant because he's dead now. But is he? Wait, I know Yamauchi's dead. Hang on.
Hey, Prime's here.
Anything about this?
Yamauchi's been gone for a while now.
No, Howard Lincoln's actually still alive. Shit.
Oh, jeez.
That's what happens with evil people. They sell their soul for like 30 more years. Anyway.
Thank you very much, Satanga, for informing us of this living man's shame.
Yeah, he still has to live with it then. So, justice? I don't know.
I'm sure he'll feel ashamed of all the money he has. He'll cry into his money.
Ashamed of his words and deeds, or whatever the fuck. Anyway, yes.
Megaforce, okay. Well, yay, Prime's here.
See? Hey, Prime, what's up, sir?
Hello, Prime.
Hey, Prime.
Yep.
Howdy.
So, anyway, I digress, okay. I'd much rather play the Super NES than the N64. Ooh, God.
Yeah, that's a whole other can of worms. I don't think we're going to get into tonight.
Yeah, that's very much a can of worms.
I will say this much. The Super NES was the last console by Nintendo I ever bought.
Yeah, I can get that.
Mm-hmm. It just, nothing after that had the kind of games I was interested in. Super NES at least had games I was interested in.
Oh, totally.
Just to speak for Rob a bit, somewhat explainedly and annoyingly on my end.
Do tell, Mike.
He does not hate the SNES. He does kind of hate these people on social media he's come across that really super fillet the SNES, and it's sort of like become a little bit of a bitter cross for him to carry that, he just doesn't agree, but it's like these people are just being, like he said something in the degree of, like, these are the losers who still thinks that the console wars are going on, right?
God.
Exactly. Nintendo brand, as Snarb just put it.
Oh yes, Nintendo brain. Hey, Snarb, what's up?
Snarb, welcome in.
I feel the simple description is sycophants are never appreciated.
Yes.
Good way of putting it, yeah.
No, they're not.
It's like, look,
so
the console wars ended, and we all won.
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, it took me until 2002 for me to get a Sega Genesis. Growing up as a single-digit kid who didn't know shit, I was kind of biased towards Nintendo, but that shaved off quickly when I actually grew up and had more of a sense of the world around me. Nonetheless, I played a shitload of the SNES throughout the 90s, and certainly I still do hold a lot of fond memories of the console, but I do agree we should keep in check as to whether or not it really can be called the best of all time. I don't think any console should be called that without, checking the notion of subjectivity, but it did have a lot of good shit, I will say that.
Well, there definitely were some good games for it. I will say that myself. But before we get into that, everyone take a moment to admire the nice background that Betty put together for us.
It's fantastic. Thank you, Betty.
Really stylish. You did great. You outdid yourself, even.
Betty nailed it.
I don't believe she's listening. Nice. I don't believe she's listening right now, but I'll pass this all along to her.
Yes, please do.
Hooray.
Sweet.
So, if we'd like to go around and actually mention who each of our avatars are,
sure.
Kyle, we'll start with you.
Okay, perfect. Well, my avatar is the always wonderful and hilarious and charming Ibi Sumaru from the Ganbare Goemon / Mystical Ninja series.
Which game is that one from, actually, the picture you chose?
Oh, it's a cutscene from the 4th Ganbare Goemon game for Super Famicom.
Ah, okay, it was from number 4. Got it. Yep. And Forneia?
I have Angela, who is from Seiken Densetsu 3, and anyone who is referring to the SNES game, or Super Famicom game, rather, and calling it Trials of Mana is wrong. That's the remake, and I will fight you.
I mean, I played it as SD3. I kind of can't not call it that.
Right?
It's an exception, I'll grant.
If you boot the remake in Japanese, they say Seiken Densetsu 3 Trials of Mana. So, there you go.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. I see we've got a couple more who've joined our chat here. Hello, Brandon, and hello, Chibi Fighter.
Hey, everybody, what's up?
Yeah. And Mike, you're up next.
I decided to pick the most colorful, semi-unlikely Scrimblow I could think of, and I know
you picked a harmonica player.
I did, yes. I know I had another choice I was thinking about, but I can't even remember who that was anymore. I decided on Plock, protagonist of the same game known as Plock. That's a stupid way of saying that, but yes, it's I believe, a British action platformer that is a really fun and game on the SNES with some fantastic music, because at least Tim Fallon worked on it. I forget if Jeff did too, but it's got that Fallon sound magic going for it, and it is a game that I like quite a lot, with the asterisk that it gets really horribly hard the further in you go, but I still have some fun memories of it.
I've cleared it multiple times. Plock did nothing wrong.
I remember.
Yeah, no, Plot's great. I highly recommend if you're looking for something a little quirkier than normal SNES fare.
Well, I'll tell you this. I remember seeing an ad for Plock that was playing on some in-store demo kiosks. And the announcer was very over-enthusiastic about it. Like, at the end, he was all like, "Play Plock!"
Nice.
And also, Plock is semi-infamous for the line, "I've been diddled again!" Which, I haven't mentioned that, of course. That's very British slang that people found very hilarious. So
Yeah.
Diddled.
All right, Jay, how about you?
We got NES from the Earthbound game, which is a lot of fun. And I just thought I'm going to be a little different. Normally, I go with something that's Final Fantasy or any of my favorite characters, but wanted to give Earthbound a little bit of love tonight. So here we go.
Sharon's here. Okay.
Sharon.
Earthbound is great. Hi,
Hey, what's
Sharon.
Hi, Sharon.
Yep. And how about you, Kate?
So, I picked a character from one of Falcom's many action RPGs, Brandish. This character is technically well, I don't know if villain is the right term. She's an antagonist named Dela Delan, who is often chasing after the protagonist and also finds herself in silly mishaps that put her in disadvantageous situations. And I just think she's a fun character, so I decided to pick her.
Nothing wrong with that.
For the record, I was going to pick Della until you did. You beat me to the punch on that one.
Sorry.
Hey,
Oh.
What are you apologizing for?
it's all good. Right?
I mean, hey, you both really like Brandish, so nothing wrong with that. That's one I've meant to get to a Brandish game at some point in my life. I know it has that interesting take on overhead gameplay where it like shifts the entire room around you to compensate for how it's built. But
Brandish 2 is really good.
would you say it's worth getting right to that one? Is the first one like rougher to deal with?
So here's the thing. It's kind of cheating to be talking about Brandish because they're actually PC Engine games that got ported, and the PC and excuse me, you're right, PC 98, and the port of Brandish 1 is very poor. The port of 2 is much better with considerations for like UI and that kind of thing. It's still trimmed down, but it's far more playable.
Sweet. Yeah,
I personally had a really good time with the first Brandish. It was really fun on Super NES.
All right, and before we go on, I do want to say hi to Tim. They came in.
Hello.
Hello.
Hey there, Tintin. What is up?
How's it going?
Tim?
I don't
Okay.
have too much of a recognition of the Brandish games, but I've heard about them many times in my life, and I will also say I love the soundtracks for them. They have very good music.
Oh yeah,
Falcom usually delivers the goods in that sector, yeah.
Yep.
yes.
Well,
That's
Falcom,
true.
yeah. And
Incidentally, I have just one more thing to say about Brandish 2. When the translation patch for Brandish 2 on Super Famicom came out, the translation team put out an incredibly ridiculous trailer for it that still lives rent-free in my head.
really,
But they just lead with the statement of Brandish, it will fuck you up. And the end point is just like words falling onto several screens with like metal impaction sounds. It just says, "Not for bitches."
wow.
Like I said, absolutely ridiculous.
Sounds it, yeah.
Yeah.
Love your announcer voice, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
Very good.
So we finally come to me, and I've chosen the most serious sci-fi-esque, avatar out of everyone here. I would be the unnamed pilot of the D-117B Axlay Stratofighter.
I
Because,
always called him good old Tomato Face. I'm sorry.
well, that's possibly a better name than Wink Bawfield.
Yeah, that's not the same game, but it is objectively better.
Wink.
Oh yeah, it's actually
That
is.
looks,
Yep.
Sorry,
that looks like a.
I
that
love the
looks
name
like a-
Wink.
Okay,
Sorry.
it's okay. I was just gonna make a bad joke.
Go ahead.
Okay, that looks like a Master Chief palette swap.
Oh.
You might have mortally wounded Rob with that one.
No, because I have time on my side. Because this guy existed before Master Chief was a gleam in his programmer's eye.
Yeah. Yeah, he's definitely on his hind legs at least, but yeah.
Yeah.
So
We have fun. Anyway.
yes. Anyway, that's all of us, and so I also had to make it a point to have the Super Famicom represented somewhere in this background image,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm sure you can all see it, so it's right there.
I love it.
Yep.
Because we are going to talk about the Super Famicom too. All right, so
I mean, yeah, pretty much.
well, where should we start then? That'd be a good way to kick this off. I hate Donkey Kong Country.
Nice.
I love Donkey Kong Country.
Hey, our first conflict. Let's go.
I think it's just the
I'm
most,
selling tickets.
Nerd fight, nerd fight, nerd fight.
I think it's the most basic platformer with mud butt graphics. Right, Prime?
Hey, Prime, are you out there? Rob said the thing, just so you know. Also, Snarb is on Kate's side for this one. I will remain neutral to this party. I do like the DKC games, but I can understand where others are in so much not so fond of them.
Same.
That's what I was expecting to see from Prime. In all seriousness, I played worse. So, when it comes to Donkey Kong, I prefer my classic, Donkey Kong kidnap Pauline is rolling barrels down and run over Mario kind of thing.
I will say I do really love Donkey Kong 4 and the Game Boy, and no DKC game quite hits that high for me.
Oh, Donkey Kong 94 is a masterpiece. That game's amazing.
I can love it. Sadly, we're not talking about the Game Boy right now. I just want to mention it.
You know what? You can play Donkey Kong 94 on the Super NES.
Super Game Boy.
Super Game Boy.
Yeah,
you're right.
Game
That
Boy.
is true.
True.
Very interesting
That's a good
peripheral. My brother and I really took to back in the day. It's I don't really even know what to say about the Super Game Boy because it might be cheating, and we don't want to talk too much about the Game Boy in question. But it's a neat thing to say the least.
Yeah.
I feel like the extent to talk about the Super Game Boy is the way it functioned, and just kind of leave it at that. It would allow you to emulate a Game Boy game on the Super Nintendo. You could use your controller with it. You could mess around with palettes and have Negaverse Kirby's Dreamland, which was always excellent. And some games that were built with specific compatibility, like, say, the Pokemon games or other such things, would have special frames to decorate the outer areas of the borders of the screen, while they had the game represented within, and the game represented within would be given color palettes that were unique to the Super Game Boy that you could not get at the Game Boy at the time, and the Game Boy Color was not due for a few years.
Yep.
Yeah.
Now,
It's pretty little neat
There
business.
was that.
also,
And also, some Game Boy games would have added functionality like sound effects. Like Donkey Kong 94 has that when played on the Super Game Boy.
hello,
was not
Andrew.
aware of
Thank you for
that
coming
one.
in.
Hey there. What's up?
Hola.
I
We're
invited him
joining.
here, actually.
Nice.
I hope I don't regret it.
Oh my gosh.
Is this the Andrew you've mentioned before, Mike?
That's the very one, yep. I guess I built a little bit of a reputation for... I hope it was favorable, whatever the case.
Well, I can't say
Good to have me
that.
here.
I can't say that you've ever said anything bad about the man. So
Cool. I sure hope not.
nope. But anyway, so yeah, I've just never been a fan of Donkey Kong Country. The graphics don't appeal to me, and just I don't know, not my thing.
I've found that
That's understandable.
speedrunners are particularly fond of Donkey Kong Country 1 because of the general gameplay flow of just being able to hold forward and respond without letting go of that. Like, if you're not looking for secrets and you're just looking to go, it's actually very satisfying for those interests.
Oh, okay. And what was it? Didn't that have a minecart stage?
It
It
did.
did.
Yeah, lots of freaking 90s games
Yeah.
frustrating for some reason.
Yes.
It's like Universal. I can't remember a single minecart level that I actually liked. I know it really pilloried Metal Slug First Mission on the NGPC, but that's also another system that's not the SNES, so I digress.
I think the minecart stage and multiple minecart stages in Donkey Kong Country are wonderful and amazing, and I adore them.
The only
That's
I think they're structured fairly decently.
I think the ones in DKC are probably the
Oh.
best that you could ask for as far as minecart stages goes. Any other ones kind of feel like they were trying to latch onto a bandwagon, and they were like usually poorly made for whatever reason.
So, on this topic, one thing that I like about the minecart stages is many times the game will have something like this where, like, a standard platformer will have a stage like the minecart stage, which is generally like an auto-scroller in terms of how it functions. But I appreciate that the minecart stages in Donkey Kong Country often switch things up by having points where you need to get off the minecart, or where you need to do platforming that doesn't involve being on the minecart. So it still features more of that control and functionality that's present in the main game. So I do like it as an extension of that.
Fair way of putting it. And also, welcome to the Text Arc. It just popped in. How's it going, Text?
Hey
Hello,
there, Texar.
welcome.
Thanks for coming in. Haven't seen you in a while.
Howdy.
I would like to put forward a line of thought. So the minecart stage, at its base element, you jump into the cart, it goes forward, you jump at opportune times to either get prizes or avoid hazards, and that's all there is to it. Does that sound a bit like a bit of a prototype to like the infinite runner genre of gaming?
I'll be damned. You're not wrong about that.
Yeah.
Kind
I
of.
mean, it kind of already existed in a sense with games like BC's Quest for Tires on the ColecoVision,
I
but
love
I
that
guess
game.
maybe it
Sure.
could be seen as an influence on it.
Now, Prime has an excellent point there. X-Men games should not have minecart stages.
Shit. What X-Men game was it that did have that?
Spider-Man and X-Men in Arcade's Revenge.
Not a.
Ooh,
Oh, right, and
not
the
a great
game that-
one.
Right, the game that sucks. That's why it sucks.
Yeah.
If you guys could see the picture that Prime put together, that's just hilarious.
Oh,
If you
shit.
want to know a good X-Men game that's on the Super Nintendo, I give you X-Men Mutant Apocalypse, developed and published by Capcom.
That game's actually pretty rad.
Yeah,
I'm
it
not sure if
is.
I like it more than Clone Wars and the
Agreed.
Genesis, but I do like it a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also find it strange that Beast was never in any of Capcom's Marvel fighters, but he is playable there, so I'll take it.
Yeah.
Actually, you know what? You give me you have presented me with a segue. Now help me out here because I don't remember the exact title of it. But there is a European developed X-Men game on the SNES where you control where you can control multiple of the X-Men, and each of them
You
has like their
literally
own
just-
level sets.
We literally just finished talking about it. X-Men.
It's that one. Okay, like I said,
Yeah.
I don't. I'm not the one who was playing. I saw someone else playing, and I never saw Spider-Man. Okay, give me a break.
Yeah,
Yeah, no
it
worries.
does
But-
have the Fallens working on it, but that's the only good thing
Yeah.
to say.
But here's the thing: their next game was Plock.
That is true. Software Creations, very inconsistent developer, to say the least. I mean, they
Work
get...
on such good games like the Spider-Man beat 'em up. What the hell is that? Separation Anxiety and
Maximum
No,
Carnage.
no, not Maximum Carnage.
I know some people have mixed thoughts on them. I do actually like Maximum Carnage. I know it's got problems, but I have a little bit of a nostalgic peak for it.
Same.
The only nostalgic anything I have for Maximum Carnage is the Green Jello song.
That song
rules. Yeah.
That song rules.
No matter what your size, crushing spiders like flies.
Is good, baby.
Listen, all you fools! Don't you know that Carnage rules?
And then also one of the in that game is just straight up the Mob Rules by Dio era Black Sabbath. I don't know how they got away with that. I don't know how they got away with that. Yeah,
I'm shocked they didn't get a lawsuit from that because, like, that's just the song. Like, holy crap! Guitar solo and everything. Like, how the hell did they not get a lawsuit for this?
It's pretty amazing. But I also want to mention that Songwriter do Equinox, the follow-up to Solstice, a clever little naming convention there, which is quite difficult, and I think I gave up like halfway into it, but it's a pretty neat game from what I remember.
I never really, I'm sorry to all my European friends, like, no offense, but I never really got on with the games that are on and that point of view. The
isometrics. They're an acquired taste, Yeah,
the platforming in those games, like, in those style of games was just too damn hard for me. Like, it's just like it's so precise, and I've never like I never give the character enough like time to jump, and it's just like it's too frustrating.
Fair Bingus, I don't blame you. But so it wasn't just Japanese who were abundant on the SNES. I do think some Western developers had a little bit more of a foothold around that time for like Ocean Software. But why did I mention that?
Why did you mention
really?
that?
That's the direction you take?
Oh my!
That's where you're going?
Hang on. I was just saying, I actually was not too long ago kind of at my buddy Snarv's behest. Shut up. A game based on a Addams Family values that is actually not bad. It's kind of like a sort of Zelda-ish action adventure, and I actually like what I played of that.
I'll actually do you one better. The first Addams Family game on Super Nintendo, based off the first movie, actually pretty good as a platformer. Like, actually better.
That one's a decent Metroid-like,
it's
I like what I played of
good
it.
for what it is. Yeah.
Well, I would hope it's at least better than the TurboGrafx Addams Family game.
The TurboGrafx Addams Family game is weird. Like, it's tough, and it's a little odd.
You control the lawyer, for crying out loud.
Yeah.
Right.
You fight the family. Like, you're the lawyer, and you fight the Addams Family. It's like, what?
That's not what we play the games for. It's just such a football premise.
Because like in the first Addams Family game on SNES, you play as Gomez, and you have to save your family, and then the second game, you're Uncle Fester. Yeah, you're Uncle Fester, and it's just like, okay, those actually make sense. Hell, in Fester's Quest, he plays Fester, and it's like that also makes sense. And to play as
I would hope that you're playing Fester in Fester's Quest, because it would be a little odd if you were playing Thing.
Well, yeah, exactly, because it's called Fester.
That would be pretty funny, though.
Yeah.
Because it's Quest.
I want that game. I love Cousin Nate Cousin Nate as a kid. Adorable little sprinter.
Did Lurch ever get a game? Lurch needs a game if he never got one.
Lurch needs a video game. I play the Lurch video game. I'd play it.
Lurch's U-Rang.
Yes.
Like, the whole point of the game is that someone calls him, and you spend the video game going to the call, and then like you win by him going to the person and going, "You rang," and it's like, oh my god, yes.
I don't think I'm on with this, because Lurch is always right there, right on call.
Oh yeah.
It doesn't make sense to me to make him have to have anyone be waiting for him.
Yeah, but that's the point of the video game, to exaggerate everything.
Well,
I would say you're going out on the job.
I will say, springboarding off of that, the SNES, I want to say more so than the NES, although correct me if you believe otherwise, but it seemed to hold a large host of licensed games, mostly based on Western properties, and as you'd expect, they were a very varying quality. I mean, we did have Indiana Jones Great Adventures and the
which was awesome.
Super Star Wars trilogy,
which were all great.
Those games are
very tough games. They're good, but my God, they are hard.
Yeah, especially Empire. I thought, but I was going to say on the
I actually rented Jedi and beat it on Jedi as a kid.
Wow, really good. I actually had trouble at the very last stage where Falcon.
I actually ended up getting every Super Star Wars game as they came out because my birthday coincided with them. So,
oh wow, good
and
deal.
I would just sit there and play through them until I finished them.
Honestly, I really don't have that much experience with licensed games on the Super NES. I guess because I've never been super into licensed games in general. I can only really think of like a few that I actually even played. Let alone
I actually have quite a few licensed SNES games that I like really enjoy and I think are actually like solid games that anybody could appreciate. One, for example, that's very obscure. In fact, I didn't even know about it until I literally just saw it on the rental shelf as a kid, is Inspector Gadget, published by Hudson Soft. Really good game. Inspector Gadget is basically like, it's Ghosts and Goblins because it has the health status of Ghosts and Goblins where you can only take 2 hits. You have your Inspector Gadget, and if you take a hit once, you're in your underwear, and if you take a hit again, you die. And then, like...
Does he at least turn into a pile of bones?
No.
Damn.
So,
oh, well.
Yeah, but, anyways.
Pile of gadgets.
Your method of attack in the game is, you use your go-go gadget, like obstacle your items. Like you have a stretch punch, you have a helicopter or gyrocopter, whatever you want to call it. You have like a little helicopter projectile you can shoot out. You can shoot out little mini gadgets, like Inspector Gadgets, to attack enemies. You can shoot plungers. You can shoot attack arrows from your head. It's really good licensed game, super underrated. It's tough though. It's a tough game, but it's worth the challenge.
Huh.
That's cool.
I gotta look into it. I actually got back into watching Inspector Gadget recently. So much fun.
Oh, nice.
There is a certain particular game that got a port to Super NES, which I think is a very good port, and that is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 4 Turtles in Time.
Oh,
yeah. I also wanted to quickly mention another licensed game that I think is also super underrated. And this is for a license that I don't even like. Like, okay, so I never liked the movie Hook, but I actually really like the Hook video game for Super Nintendo. It was developed by a small-time Japanese studio, or a development studio called Ukiyote. They've done a couple of different really cool games. Another game that they also developed, also for
Skyblazer.
Yeah, it's Skyblazer, and I
love
Skyblazer.
that one.
Yeah, so Hook is sort of a precursor to Skyblazer, and it's honestly pretty good. Like, I know some people who've said that they feel like Hook is a little slow, but I think that actually kind of works in the game's favor, because, like, the platforming is...
Question. Is this the same Hook that you would find on Sega CD? Because I had that one.
Yes, because, because what basically happened is that Ukiyote made the original Hook game, and then when it came to porting it to Genesis and Sega CD, they hired a European studio to like make a copy of it for the Sega consoles. Except the difference is where each version of Hook for the Super Nintendo, Genesis, and Sega CD all have the movie score in its soundtrack. The Sega CD version has the actual film score, like the actual score that's in the film as the soundtrack, and it's
on the one hand that's pretty amazing. On the other hand, it's not going to do streamers any good.
And that's what I like about the Super Nintendo version is that the Super Nintendo version also has the movie soundtrack as its video game music, but it's actually really well done for being like a Super Nintendo version of John Williams' score. Like a lot of really well done pieces from the movie that actually sound good. Honestly, there's a lot of licensed games on Super Nintendo for licenses that I don't even really care about, but I'm like, oh, this game's actually good though. Holy crap.
Now, this does bring me to an interesting point. We've mainly discussed American stuff.
Yeah.
But you go to the Super Famicom, you'll find a few more licensed games actually based on American properties, which
Yes.
are better than anything that should exist. Like,
Yes.
You're inching towards Super Back to the Future 2 on this one, I
Yes.
assume.
I was
Oh,
about
yeah.
to launch right into that.
I was hoping
Better
you would,
believe
because
it.
that game is like it's so weird when you compare it to all the other like Back to the Future games where it's just like, what the hell are these games trying to do? And then like here comes Super Back to the Future 2, and it's this like super cute like chibi platformer like Sonic meets kind of like this weird like crossover of like a platformer, and it's like really well
You're right,
made.
Prime. But Alan Silvestri's Back to the Future theme was reproduced so faithfully and in a couple of different varieties too.
Yes.
Yeah. Very nice leitmotif. I like when I played that game. I remember being
Okay.
bad at it.
I my best friend is an audio professor. Leitmotif.
Oh, okay, fine.
Sorry. My apologies. Sorry.
I will keep that in mind going.
Leitmotif.
I never had to
okay.
use the word again, at least. But, I like what I remember being pretty bad at it, but, like, regardless of that's not really a factor because, like, every other BTTF game from the 90s is pretty objectively awful.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
And also, another cool note about Super Back to the Future 2, the composer for the game is none other than really awesome video game composer Hitoshi Sakamoto.
Oh, yes.
that is bonkers. The Final
Hell
Fantasy
yeah.
Tactics and Radiant Silvergun guy.
Yes.
Years
Yes.
before freaking did
This
Somehow
did the
makes sense.
soundtrack. Did the soundtrack
yeah.
to Super Back to the Future. And another cool thing about the game too is that what I like about Hitoshi Sakamoto's soundtrack for the game is that literally almost all the songs are all like motifs of the Back to the Future theme, but done in like different musical genres.
Exactly.
There's,
Like I was saying, there's like a variety.
Yeah, there's like a salsa version of the Back to the Future in its theme, and it's like super catchy. There's like this heavy metal version that plays in the future levels where you're in a future LA and you have to fight the like gun guys and everything. Like it's super weird, but it's so well done.
Well, and of course they reproduced the actual Back to the Future theme pretty well as well.
Yeah, and it like sounds excellent for like the Super Nintendo hardware. Like, man, they actually really nailed it.
But on the subject of licenses too, and speaking of stuff from Japan specifically, look at the load of anime-based games they got over there.
Mostly
Surprise.
pretty good.
Oh boy.
Great.
I tried playing a Violinist of Hamlin game once, and that game is just making me mad.
That's
That's a shame. That's a good game.
yeah.
There
I
is
can-
at least one anime game that I did play on the Super Famicom, and that is Sailor Moon R, which
Yes,
is
those are
beat 'em up.
good. I really like those. Those are fun.
It was decent.
So Jay, I was trying to kind
that-
of segue towards you here, Jay.
Yeah, so I have played some in the last little bit on my channel. Some of the anime ones, such as the Sailor Moon beat 'em up. I played Lupin. I've also did Iria, and they're a lot of fun. Like that's a untapped section of the Super Nintendo, or in this case, mostly Super Famicom, that I never got to play when I was young. They are a lot of fun games out of them, and I just wish they came over here a lot more.
Well, a couple of the really good ones I
The
can think
Lupin
of.
game is especially fun. Sorry, Rob.
I was gonna
I
say,
agree.
a couple of the ones that really grabbed me were, believe it or not, Gundam Wing Endless Duel.
Yes, that game rules. That's such a good. That's a really good fighting game.
It could maybe be the best fighting game on the system. I know TMNT Tournament Fighters is also really close, but I don't know. That one's pretty just very quality.
Which kind of goes.
Definitely have to check.
Which kind of also goes back to Kate's point when she brought up TMNT 4. Like, man, those two Ninja Turtles games kicked ass. They're so good.
Yeah, Konami had a really good grasp on that property overall, and it wasn't just on the SNES to be sure, but again, actually, I promise Andrew, if you're still there, I wanted to shout out Goof Troop by Famicom. He actually,
I love that game.
He surprised me with the offer for an actual full-on co-op play when I'd actually barely poked that game before, and I actually really had a blast with him on it. I would say that I can't really fathom playing that one alone, so it's like a really... I was going to say it's like a really, really, really early case similar to Gears of War, where it's not as fun as just yourself. I can't believe I read that.
Well,
Beaten Goof Troop a couple times by myself. It's still fun.
If I remember correctly, it's almost like a sequel to Pirate Ship Hijimaru, just with Disney characters.
Exactly.
That's a good. That's a really good point, Rob.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it had the nautical theme. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was like even outright confirmed at some point, so that's pretty amazing.
Also, Prime had an excellent point in the chat. A big reason to stare at the import game ads and gaming mags back in the day.
Yeah, good point. What we were missing out on the time. I remember that Nintendo Power featurette on, I think, like some game that was covering the 1988 U.S. presidential election that was made in Japan or some crazy shit like that.
But something about that article. I remember looking through it, and they're showing all these games which would not appeal to, U.S. players at all. And I got to thinking about that, and it's like, wait a minute, because if they showed some of the really, kick-ass action games and stuff we didn't get over here, then there'd be all this demand. Why didn't you release it over here? So let's just show them a bunch of visual novels and presidential election games.
I didn't want to let on too much, huh?
Exactly.
You might have a point there. I just wanted to say one more thing. I do find the licensed titles more interesting now than I used to, because it's just such a roulette as to whether or not they'd be any good. But I know they usually have a not great reputation. I mean, Home Improvement Power Tool Pursuit exists,
God.
So enough said.
You know what I got to say about that game?
What's that? Yeah, no, that's pretty accurate. I would agree. I would give it the Walmart tweet.
Come on, it's such a good game. No, I'm kidding.
Jay, get out.
Of all the American TV shows to get a video game, why Home Improvement? Like Home Improvement.
It was popular.
Has anyone seen the retro achievement set that someone made for that game?
No.
Oh no, what's the deal there?
Yeah, I'm curious.
Oh, it's amazing. Each one of them in sequence just makes the statement of Tim Allen was arrested in place.
Holy shit!
And it's just the police report. Like the achievements are consistent of like the statements from the police report.
Oh, that's hysterical!
Holy fucking Christ, that's amazing!
That's amazing.
Brilliant.
Wow. Okay, I'm glad I brought that up for that. That's a nice surprise. Holy shit!
Oh, it's great.
Okay. Well, one other licensed game I wanted to bring up back on the anime side of things. Because I remember seeing this in one of those ads way back when. Didn't get to play it until the early aughts sometimes. But when I was able to get a copy of it, I was glad I did. Macross Scrambled Valkyrie.
That game's awesome.
Oh, yes.
It's funny because I actually got into the Western-esque version of Macross, i.e. Robotech, recently. And I'm like, wow, this is a really good show. I mean, I don't know how accurate the Scramble Valkyrie is to the series question. It's probably based on like a later series for all I know, but
Kakazaki doesn't die at least twice.
Even if you don't know anything later, it's just a really fucking good shoot 'em up on its merits. And and if I may springboard to another subject here, while it was not quite as known as a shmup-laden console as its precursors, the TG-16 and the Genesis, were, yes, it still has some pretty good shoot-em-ups on it.
Axley.
Pretty good to very good. It's great. Yes, like Axley, as you mentioned, I still think it's a little bit more of a case of style over substance, but I think the style's great and the substance ain't bad either.
Yeah,
And
R-Type R-Type 3.
Oh, yeah.
I was
Yes.
going to mention that.
The Parodius
Type 3 is
games.
excellent.
I have
It is, yes.
absolutely have to mention my favorite Super NES game of all time here, which would be Gradius 3.
Yep.
That was the
Yeah,
game.
Phenomenal.
That was almost the game that introduced me to the Super NES in the first place.
Yeah,
'Cause,
it wasn't the very first one that Konami.
Yeah, that was Konami's first release over here.
Awesome, even before SCV4. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
It was the launch title in North America.
Yeah, pretty
That is
much.
Right. Yeah, that sounds familiar.
Well, it's a good thing they led with that and not Castlevania 4. Cripes.
Yeah.
Not a fan
Not
of
a
Castlevania, or I take it.
fan.
Castlevania, no, I'm fine with Castlevania. Castlevania 4 is dog shit.
How dare you?
Strong
Second
word.
Fight of the Night. I know SCV4 has its
I'm biting my tongue on that one. But anyway.
and I would say that Rondo of Blood is definitely a better game, and I like Bloodlines more, but I still
Bloodlines is my favorite
I
classic
still-
Castlevania.
Well, that one's great, no questions there. But
Bloodlines are strong. I like Dracula X, believe it or not. I've actually legit beat Dracula X.
So
And I think Castlevania 4 is bullshit.
Curiosity,
have
what makes
also-
it so bad for you?
I also beat Dracula X. That was actually one of the most recent Super NES games that I did a 1cc of. And
Nice.
I think I definitely don't like it as much as Rondo of Blood, but I mean, I played it enough to 1cc it, so I guess I got something out of it.
I'll do you one a little better on
Yeah.
that. When that came out, I had actually just borrowed a copy of Rondo from a guy I knew. So I was actually able to compare the two versions pretty much side by side at the same time back in '95.
Oh, that's really neat.
Heck yeah.
Neo.
Also kicked the crap out of both of them. So
Yeah, I
There we
do
go.
think the SNES Dracula X much. It's still a very good, at some points, bullshit game, but I don't think it's as bullshit to Castlevania as Mega Man and Bass is to Mega Man.
oh,
So, if you want to mention Mega Man's presence on the SNES and his future counterpart, as it were, because before anyone says it, I don't think there's many people to dispute that the first Mega Man X is at least the first one, and the second one has a lot of fans as well, but they're some of the best action games ever for the system.
I'm glad we're bringing up the Mega Man stuff on Super Nintendo because, hey, possibly hot take. Mega Man 7 is my favorite classic Mega Man game.
I love 7. You're
Yay.
valid.
I love
A lot of
Mega Man
folks are
7.
coming around on 7.
Good.
It was not appreciated a lot in the day, but a lot of folks,
I
particularly
remember-
speedrunners, have been
I
coming
remember-
around on it.
Way
Excellent.
back,
Very
I
nice.
remember way back in the forum days where, like, it's not so much that, like, okay, I want to make this clear that I was never, like, bullied or anything, but whenever I would bring up Mega Man 7, people would get really shitty about it and get, like, really, like, pissy about it, and it really
Losers.
pissed me off. Yeah, and it really pissed me off, because it's like, yeah, 7's my favorite. Sorry it's not Mega Man 2. It doesn't mean you have to be a fucking dick about
I
it.
never understood the hate for that game, to be
I-
perfectly honest.
I have a very different Mega Man hot take. I like 5 the most.
I think
Five
five's
is
great.
good.
I think the entire
Five is
NES deserves
Oh, sorry.
more respect.
Yeah.
As I call it, 4, 5, and 6.
I think Mega Man 5 has one of the greatest soundtracks of the entire series. Like, that
it's
soundtrack is
amazing.
fantastic.
Mhm.
Oh, there's a hot take.
you know,
So,
Not saying it's bad, but that's a hot take.
Yeah. Yeah, okay.
this kind of gives me something to segue into here.
Alright.
Go ahead.
Has anyone here ever heard of a guy who goes by the name of Infidelity?
No, I
Yes.
don't think I have.
I don't know a singular individual who goes by that name, but I know many people who practice it.
Well, yeah, there's that.
Wait, hang on.
Anyway,
There we go.
this Infidelity, cool dude, he's actually been porting NES games over to the Super NES.
yeah.
Good.
And-
Nice.
And
Oh,
actually, he'll put them with MSU soundtracks, so you get like a variety of soundtracks you can choose from. He's done all 6 of the original Mega Man games.
Oh, neat.
Wonderful.
Nice.
Excellent. I'll have to play those like those.
He's also done stuff like Contra and let's see, he's done so much. Ninja Gaiden. He did his own Ninja Gaiden trilogy using the original NES games instead of the crap that Tecmo put on the Super NES.
That,
Oh,
I'd like to
excellent.
hear. Very good.
And there's also another guy who goes by the name of Rumblemins, who has done stuff like Rygar and Life Force. So
That's right.
it's getting to be quite interesting out there with the amount of NES games getting ported.
It's very cool to see, and I really appreciate their effort.
Oh, yeah.
Same.
Yeah, same here. It's with I guess SNES not being backwards compatible with the original NES, it seems like a nice sort of nod to something that could have and should have been done back in the day.
So that gives me like a weird way to segue to a different subject that I was planning on getting into.
All right.
So this is going to seem a little off topic in a way first. So there is a fan game out there called Metroid Planets where you can make your own original NES Metroid rooms and whatnot, and you can play that in its own engine, and frankly it's the best way to play OG Metroid. I'm just going to throw it out there. But having done so and made a few rooms and whatnot, when I started doing casual speedruns of Super Metroid, I realized, oh wait, these are all the same tile assets that they used in OG Metroid, but just in higher definition, and I'm now catching every single one. I know what is and is not in both games.
You know, regarding Metroid as a whole, I'll say, even though I do like the original NES game, and I never really played enough of the Game Boy game, the sequel, to really have much of an opinion on it, but Super Metroid is a goddamn classic.
Super Metroid is a game that I have casually speedrun on stream many times, usually while hybridized with Zelda 3, which I don't like, but...
yeah, I've seen you doing that before.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
There's an interesting thing that I have to point out as an observation about Super Metroid, and that's a lot of... younger folks who are generally into Metroid type games don't like Super Metroid, and a lot of older folk don't understand why. And having been involved with doing casual speedruns and doing time trials and stuff, I can answer that question very simply. The controls, if you're not familiar with them, are very kludgy and will... And they're kind of on the non-responsive side. They have their own, physics to themselves, like even like an internal logic that if you don't understand it already, it's going to be difficult to understand. Once you understand it and you understand the flow, you can do some absolutely beautiful movement tech through the game. And that's why a lot of speedrunners to this day are still very fond of it, myself included. But if you're coming into it looking for, I'm going to look around for things to get stuff and use weapons and things, like you're going to out of, a modern Metroid-like game, the controls are going to be an obstacle unless you actually put in the time to learn them. And that is not a small ask.
Yeah, a fair observation. I don't think I had too. Well, I found it weird that by default they made A the jump button and X the shoot button. That's just foobar. You can change it to B and Y, as it were. But I always.
You think that's foobar? You should see the controls I play with.
Awesome.
Oh my god.
Yeah, the good old claw grip, I imagine.
Oh no. I have an emulator custom set up so that the A function is on the right shoulder.
Okay then.
Wow.
Makes it like a third-person shooter almost. Crazy.
Mm-hmm. Now,
Jay, you were going to say something?
Yeah.
Actually, I kind of lost my. No. I was just saying, like, agreeing with the controls. Like, I love the game. It's probably in my top 5 Super NES games of all time. But yeah, if you're coming in from playing more of the modern ones and then going back to Super Metroid 3 might be feel very clunky to you.
It's definitely a beast of its time, and the fact that it's a beast is why it's excellent. But it is a beast that needs to be tamed, and it is not going to be gentle about it.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that there are some games, some like really highly cows, where I can A, see where others maybe don't love them, and B, maybe I don't love them personally. But Super Metroid is, I think, really genuinely does deserve all its accolades and might be a fair contender to be called the greatest SNES game ever made. I mean, obviously there's so many other possible entrants in that I can't fully qualify for that, but it's like I can see why this became such a cornerstone for, like, especially indie game development like 20 years later or something.
It is a very strong game.
Hell yeah. I mean, it's not perfect. Like, most of the bosses are not excellent, I think. That's the biggest slam I can bring against it, but I can tell you everything else so great that I can't really...
I can tell you what the biggest flaw with the game is. They repeat Ridley's theme on non-Ridley bosses way too much.
Yeah, that kind of, like, I'm not sure if it was necessarily seems a start, but it did kind of become bootstrapped as it, and it is a strong one, but it doesn't... They should have thought of, like, one other boss theme for... oh shit, who else was it used?
The most that I'll say about Super Metroid is that I don't hate it, but also I still have stuff to say about Mega Man if we want to cycle back to that at some point.
Bradley, yeah.
Before we go any further, I just want to say hey to Tristan, who just joined the chat.
Hey, Tristan.
Oh, hey there.
Hi, Tristan.
Yep, the author of the Video Game Collector's Field Guide.
Nice.
Sweet.
Welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah.
Yes, very much so.
You should check his books out. They're massive.
That's certainly an endorsement. You should check this man out. His books are massive.
They are. They're huge. But
Brilliant.
before we jump back to Mega Man, I just want to say this, though. Regarding Super Metroid. My middle daughter, she liked, and still does, a lot of earlier games she'd played. When I let her play Super Metroid, it was like all of a sudden she found her series. To a degree.
Nice, okay.
I mean, she's basically from Super Metroid all the way up through that, what was it, that last one that came out that was the remake of Metroid 2?
Dread,
yes,
yeah.
Dread. The only thing she can't do is really get into anything before Super Metroid. I had her try to play the original Metroid once, and she couldn't do it.
I do think Metroid 2 is very good and underrated, but I am going to admit I find it difficult to go back to the original Metroid at this point.
I would recommend, if someone is trying to play OG Metroid, do it through Metroid Planets. It's part of the download kit.
Well, she got a hold of She got a hold of Zero Mission and played all the way through that. And
fair enough. I think
the
Zero Mission's very good.
She hasn't played stuff like Metroid Prime, I don't think, or Other M or anything like that. But yeah, she's still a big Metroid fan.
Sweet.
To the point she wants to the point that she actually wants to put together a Power Suit cosplay.
Oh, excellent.
That's adorable. Yeah. That's awesome.
The light suit remains my favorite suit from Metroid, but all suits are good in their own way, I think. Except the fusion suit. That was awful.
And Tristan has a good question here. I haven't played Dread, so I'm not sure.
What's the question?
So Dread is basically just, we know the parts that people remembered from Metroid Fusion. The SAX chasing Samus and people, like, finding terror in that. What if we make the whole game that? And, well, that's what it is. And so if you liked the SAX sequences in Fusion in particular, then you'll probably enjoy it. Otherwise, I hear a lot of criticisms about the game that I am not in a position to discount, having not played it. But I know what the target audience and intention with that game was.
I will say that I love maybe the ME's a bit long in the tooth and more frustrating than it should have been later on, but otherwise, I didn't have many complaints. And B, I think Kate's waited patiently. What do you want to say about making Kate?
Yes.
Also, Kate, real quick before you get into that, Sharon, that's the Video Game Collector's Field Guide. Okay, Kate, go on.
All right. So, Mega Man 7 was mentioned previously, and I love that game a bunch too. I also love the Mega Man X trilogy, with X3 in particular being probably my favorite in the series.
X3 is overhated. I don't understand
I don't understand it either. I think that game rules, and I particularly love its soundtrack. I love how dark and gritty the game feels.
It's very grungy. It's very metallic and very unique in that regard.
Wait, people hate X3? This is news to me.
I know folks have frustration with it, because if you're trying to go fast, a lot of the enemy placements are very tanky things that force you to just stop and fire until they're gone. You can't maneuver around them cleanly, and they're so spongy and are not vulnerable to weapons that you can just drop them in 1 or 2 shots with, so they don't like the stop and go nature of X3 versus 1 and 2.
Alright, well, Kate, go.
I never really thought about it in that way. I guess maybe that's the case, but I personally had fun going through it. And I particularly like how, like, every X game features some amount of exploration in order to find hidden upgrades and secrets. And X3, I think, is the pinnacle of that, and that there are multiple layers of upgrades that you can find, including, like, a super special secret upgrade that encompasses all of the bonus armor upgrades if you find it in one of the fortress stages. And there's also, like, depending on who you defeat over the course of the game, that can affect some of the bosses that you encounter in the fortress stages. And there's also, like, a hidden way to unlock Zero's lightsaber,
which breaks the game in quarters. It's hilariously OP.
The Z-saber is very funny.
Yeah, and there's also 2 different endings, although I personally think the better ending is the one that you get if you don't get the Z-saber. But yeah, it's neat that that's the thing, and I just really like that game. And go ahead.
A little side on just the X series in general. Has there ever been a more successful series that actually managed to get away with making the setting darker and edgier? Because I cannot think of one. It's usually a really stupid idea. How the hell did X do that so well?
By being good.
Yeah, that's fair.
I mean, yeah, there is that. It's also worth noting that Mega Man X is still not like this was, I think the first game was either the same year as the ESRB or it predated the ESRB, but yeah, so like none of the games were going to be M-rated games, even if the ESRB did exist. Like, they're still like appropriate for kids. Like, I was 6 when I played them, and
they're not even T for T material.
Yeah, they're like young adults at like the most, but yeah, I mean, it's just like the concept of it being a bit of a grimmer Mega Man, where this character actually permanently dies. Not really, but
it's pretty neat. I was very invested in Mega Man, particularly Mega Man X lore, when I was a kid, and
I was too.
Go ahead.
I mean, I didn't really catch on for a while that it wasn't a reboot, it was a direct sequel, like a distant actual continuation of the original series, and I always thought that was just really neat how it did that.
Totally.
And just pull it off somehow.
X2 was always my favorite of the series. I really love X2.
I think X2 is the best of the X series myself.
Yeah,
mostly just because X is definitely very strong, but the bosses in particular, I don't think they had realized just how potent wall jumps were when they designed the X1 bosses. So it's very easy to just invalidate a lot of them. Like, Chill Penguin is infamous for being an incredible pushover. If you don't use wall jumps, Chill Penguin is way harder. Try it sometime.
Actually, Sigma's human in X1 because you can just He just bounces up the walls very predictably like a DVD screensaver if you just stay up on the walls. So,
I mean, that's true. I do like wall climbing, though.
And it's great.
I'm not saying anything against it. I'm just saying they were not experienced in designing around that mechanic at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, baby legs, as it were.
On the topic of more Mega Man, on the Super Famicom in this instance, there's another game that was a big deal for me personally. So there's a certain game called Rockman and Forte, which came out on the Super Famicom. And
in 1998. This is
super
late.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
that would be Mega Man and Bass in English, and it's noteworthy for a few different reasons. It came out after Mega Man 7, which was a PlayStation and Saturn game. Yet this follow-up
That's
to
8.
it-
That's 8.
That's
7
8.
is Super Nintendo.
Oh, I meant to say Mega Man 8.
Yeah.
So
Don't worry about it.
it came out
Okay.
after Mega Man 8, and despite coming out afterward, it came out on the Super Famicom, and it's, despite not being a numbered entry, it's still basically a mainline entry in that it still plays like a side-scrolling action platformer, and it's also the first game that I ever imported. So I was reading online about it, I think on the Mega Man homepage when I was like 10 or so, and so I got my family to import me a copy, and through using a modified Game Genie, I was able to plug it into my North American Super NES, and I was
there
able
you
to
go.
play it.
Yep.
And yeah, so that ended up being my introduction to the wonderful world of import video games.
Ah.
Oh,
There you
that's
go.
awesome.
Now,
Hell yeah.
I got to say something here. Okay. How is it that we've gotten this far and had all this Mega Man talk, but we haven't mentioned the most important defining Mega Man game on the Super NES?
Soccer.
Where's Mega Man Soccer? Come on.
That's NES.
No,
That's the
Super
NES.
Nintendo. No, it's not. It's
Soccer
Super
was
Nintendo.
Super.
Yeah, it was Super NES.
Yeah.
It was Super NES.
Yeah, it was.
But yeah, I've never played Mega Man Soccer, and I have no interest in playing it. I don't like
Same.
sports.
The SNES
I
had a lot of
swear,
sports games, and I don't have much to say about. A YouTube channel I like quite a bit, the SNES Drunk. He covered basically every genre of sports possible, and he gives a really good, extensive look at all the possible games in each sport you could probably think of. So just go view that, because I really don't have a lot to say. Sports are sports. I've always been a sports-hating nerd, so whatever.
Well,
Also a bit of a sports-hating nerd, except for one thing, and that one thing is Blades of Steel for the NES is fantastic.
all
is,
right. Yes,
I'll give you
Kyle.
that.
Fist bump. Mm.
Yeah, right?
Yes.
What up?
Well,
So-
I'm not sure if it really counts as a. And I recognize it's probably not as famed as the game, but I do really freaking like Super Punch Out, so there is that.
I'm just going to throw out, when it comes to video game sports, this is the only image that matters.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Oh, which image is
Yep.
that?
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Someone explain for the listeners on
Let's
YouTube.
see. I forget what game this is from, but we have.
I forget the name as well.
I think it's called Fighting Baseball, I want to say.
We have
Something like that.
players named Sleeve McDykel, Onsen
Sleeve
Sweeney,
Ray
Daryl
McScriff.
Arkadeld,
Mario Mackerel-Wayne.
Glenn
Italian Welsh, apparently.
Glenn Allen Mixon.
The name.
Please,
And everyone's...
please don't forget Bobson Dugnut.
Everyone's
That's the
saying-
most legit name on this list. It's like,
What?
it's not a name, but if you said that name, I would believe that name.
Yes.
How do you get to that name? Like,
Yes, it
when
is.
you're
I
naming-
believe.
When you
Yep.
name your child that, like, what, like, Bob, okay, Bob, but can we add anything else to it? Son, Bobson, Bobson.
It's a surname, not a forename.
Yeah, almost counts.
I think we're also forgetting Mike Truck.
Yeah,
Yes,
Ah.
Night Trap.
That could work. If only Truck actually is a good porn name, I think. But,
I need to. We all need to give a shout out to Todd Gonzalez.
Yes.
That one almost works. It's just one letter. It's like
Gonzalez, yes.
They came
With-
so
with-
close.
with his milk brother Mike Cernandez.
Oh my god.
Oh boy. Oh, that's a trip.
man, how?
I have no idea if this game, what machine this game is on. I don't care.
I think it might be the SNES. I don't
Okay, cool. Then it's relevant.
Yes.
I hope so anyway. Like, don't take my word for it, but I think I remember hearing it was.
Spade
Oh,
frogs.
okay, Kate says it is. Kate says it.
All right, cool.
All right.
I've not thrown a wildly unrelated tangent. I've thrown a wildly related tangent.
Not that I'm trying to switch the topic over to video games, sports games, because I'm not. But I also just wanted to say, because someone also said earlier, Super Punch-Out. Super Punch-Out is actually my favorite Punch-Out game. Hot take.
Awesome.
Agree.
Awesome. I was really hoping that like the guys who made the Wii Out would get a chance to make a second one that takes everyone from Super Punch Out. Like we get to see Mass Muscle and Mad Clown and Narcissus Prince and so forth in a new environment. Shame that never actually happened because I think there are some really neat and crazy boxers in there. Probably the most ridiculous being the old Chinese man Hoi Kwai. For some reason, can bring a stick into the fucking ring and beat you with it.
Well, you wouldn't separate an old man from his walking stick.
Also,
he could probably think that's a good point.
don't forget Dragon Chan, who can drop kick you.
Yes, Dragon Chan can kick you. Mass Muscle can headbutt. Hiki Kagero hits you with his hair, which really hurts for some reason. Mad Clown tosses really heavy balls at you. It might be the most bonkers installment of these.
I want to draw attention to a YouTube two-parter that I saw. It started with the Wii Punch-Out, and it was the number of rules violations committed by competitors in Punch-Out Wii, and then they had the sequel for Super Punch-Out, and it gets really funny.
I gotta get. I might have heard of that video premise. I gotta get on it.
Also, don't forget the luchador guy. I can't remember his name.
Masked Muscle.
That's Masked Muscle.
Don't forget that Masked Muscle like spits on you, and that
That's not illegal.
Yeah,
It's
you
not.
can. Oh yeah. Wow.
That is not. It is not illegal to do that in certain circuits.
To actually just hawk a loogie on your opponent. Just
Nope, that's not what he's doing. He's doing something else.
To this day, I've never played a single Punch-Out game in my life.
Oh, that's sad.
Well, no wonder you lose at fights.
Fights? What?
Joke.
Okay.
You know, in my case, I did get into the Punch-Out for the NES, but for some reason, Super Punch-Out never grabbed me.
I can't stand NES Punch-Out. Like,
Yeah, same.
the big issue that I have is I primarily do emulation, and you cannot reasonably emulate NES Punch-Out because the game is tied so tightly to two things.
Mm.
Frame data, which you're going to have latency doing through emulation no matter how well it's being done. And I have a minimum latency set up here. And the fact that the big tell for all opponents is their eyes turned red and I am colorblind.
That makes sense.
That is my issue too.
Don't forget that the what's his name, Great Tiger. His special thing of when he's like his special notification thing is that his jewel on his turban turns colors. And for a while, certain like very very old emulators, this hasn't been an issue for a while now, but way back in the day, in the early days of emulation, Great Tiger's turban jewel like would flash colors, but certain older emulators couldn't recognize those colors.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Shit.
All right, just turn our attention to the chat for a minute. There's been a couple of very interesting comments made.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, Prime says, one time I was going to joke that Willie Dustis would be a solid rapper name. Decided to check, and I think someone on Bandcamp has the name.
God.
Okay, that's pretty
Excellent.
That's
Excellent.
And Tristan commented about Super Punch-Out. Ken Lobb was one of the devs. And
That's right. He was
Really?
involved in that. I
he was.
remember he's one of
The
the
claw.
time trial names that you get, and he was one of them. That's right.
he was also at Namco when they localized Splatterhouse 2 and 3.
That guy's done a
that
freaking lot.
I did not know.
Yeah, me neither.
That guy's been all over the place. Holy crap.
Oh, yeah.
Pretty
No
cool.
kidding.
And, of course, Prime has a great point here by saying that sports games are still more game than sports simulation at this point. More of a chance for fun. I agree
Oh,
wholeheartedly.
totally.
Yeah, sports games really started to suck when they got too realistic, and then, the licenses were ruined.
So I will debate part of that statement. I know a lot of folks who really like sports management games.
I know.
That's
Same
good
here.
for them. I don't
Yeah.
give a shit
Yeah.
about them, but that's cool.
Same.
Well, that's like a mutual friend of mine and Mike's.
Well, this is why they know words like leitmotif, Satanga.
Wow, damn.
A mutual friend of mine and Mike's actually loves racing games, but he loves driving simulators, so he's a huge Gran Turismo fan.
Yeah, I tried Gran Turismo back in the day. It was really pretty. There was a visually, but then the actual driving happened, and I checked the fuck out. So
Me,
it is what it is.
Yep.
speaking of driving games, let's bring up one of the earliest and greatest for the Super NES, F-Zero.
Let's
Oh, yeah.
I
F-Zero's
still love
very
F-Zero quite a bit. I know it's a
Same.
little old by now, but it's a classic, and also a old 7, the rotatey thingy that the system.
Yeah, we
had.
we can't do a round table for the Super NES and not bring up Mode 7.
Of course.
I
Might be a
never
bit of
played-
a buzzword. Sorry, Kate.
I never played F-Zero when I was a kid. I think it was only like maybe 10 years ago or so that I actually got to play it finally, and I do really like it a bunch. It's great.
Oh, yeah.
Totally.
I've never really played OG F-Zero. I was always very, very fond of F-Zero X.
Oh.
F-Zero
X is
great.
fucking great. Yeah. No
you know-
complaints there.
Whenever someone asks me what my top 5 N64 games are, it usually reads like this: F-Zero X, F-Zero X, F-Zero X, F-Zero X, F-Zero X.
And maybe
There you
Blast
go.
Blue.
Okay.
And maybe Mischief Makers.
You're after Heather.
Maybe Hybrid Heaven.
Hybrid Heaven.
I love Hybrid Heaven.
I do too. No, I think it's fucking
I-
great. One of the most original games I've ever played.
I think
yeah.
Satanga is just aching for someone to suplex him.
That might work, but I think the headbutt was the most spammable in that game. It did good damage. Anyway, there are quite a few racing games on the SNES as well, but none really registered quite as well to me as F-Zero, and it just really presented a really cool setting that X and GX really expanded upon. And then Miyamoto got jealous that Sega made a really awesome F-Zero game, so he benched the property indefinitely. Fuck you, Miyamoto. that's my terrible tinfoil hat theory. I'm sure I'm.
That's the rumor, yeah. And honestly,
Okay.
I don't feel that it's entirely unfounded, but how verifiable it is anyone's guess.
Yeah.
But, speaking of F-Zero, there was a Super Famicom game which was kind of like a really cutesy F-Zero, but from a weird angle, so it wasn't as easy to control. It was called Uchu Astro Race Go-Go.
Game?
I don't
like
think
that.
I know this one. to be
I've heard of
honest.
that game.
Was it on the Satellaview?
No, it was a carton.
Oh.
Okay.
But it's also you can turn your car completely around. It can be very hard to control at times. I was never able to do much with it. So, yeah.
I know that there. I mean, I might open up a bit of a fire pit with this one, but
Oh, here it comes.
for as much as F-Zero and
Never mind.
that game you just mentioned, I can't remember.
I just
And
call it
several.
Astro Race Go-Go.
That's risky. Yeah, that's a fair way. it's maybe a little unfortunate that Super Mario that got the most popular. I think Rob has a few bad words to say about that.
Yeah, it feels
Mario
like you're
Kart?
driving in molasses.
Yeah, I can get that. I love Super Mario Kart, but like a lot of it is nostalgia. I still love it. Like I still enjoy playing it, but it's nostalgia for me. I can totally get people who don't like it. Like I get you.
Not fair.
I do not like SNES Mario Kart. 64 Mario Kart, yes. NES, SNES, no.
You know,
Also,
Yeah,
like,
the
100% agree with that.
SNES one's kind of hard to go back to.
well, no, it's not only that, Satanga, but like honestly, like to give credit to all you in this roundtable, SNES Mario Kart is also like really fucking cheap in difficulty. Like the first CC matches you go through are like pretty easy, but once you start going up in the CCs, like man, there are some like bullshit difficulty moments. Like
Yeah,
holy
the
crap.
series is, I believe, it's quote unquote rubber band AI, and I guess that was always kind of inherent.
I would
in it.
honestly argue that some of the later games get better with dealing with stuff like that, like rubber band and AI stuff.
Yeah.
Like I will
Empirically, they do. That
Yeah,
is
but, like-
a
Yeah, I believe
studied
that.
phenomenon.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
cool.
but like honestly though, Super Mario Kart, like SNES Mario Kart, like honestly is the cheapest in difficulty. Like it is like oh my if you get angry at playing video games, be careful, because yeah, this game will make you throw your controller, like straight up.
I do have a story about Super Mario Kart, although it doesn't involve actually playing the game.
No, go ahead.
So, when I was like 6 years old, I went with some of my friends in first grade to a friend's birthday party, and while they were there, they were playing multiplayer in Super Mario Kart. And that was a game that I didn't own, so I was looking forward to trying it. But every time they switched turns and had different people picking up a controller, I didn't get a chance to play it. And then eventually they just stopped playing it, and I didn't get a chance to play it at all. So I got really angry and called them stupid, and then the birthday kid's mom came in and punished us.
Oh,
So
boy.
yeah,
Wow.
I never got to play it as a kid.
I'm just
And I
gonna.
wouldn't be surprised if it left a little bit of a bad mark in there also. I will say you're vindicated. F-Zero is better. So.
I mean, I didn't get to play F-Zero either as a kid. So.
Oh,
Yeah, that's
never
a good
mind.
point.
Sorry.
Mike,
Sorry.
I'm just going to say as a matter of record here, and you all know how I feel about the N64. I would rather play Mario Kart 64.
It's a
I do
better
think
game.
It's a better game.
Yeah,
Much,
it's
yes.
much better.
I feel like
I
the
like Mario
series.
Kart 64.
Yeah, I feel like SMK is kind of a prototype, and 64 is like the real beginning of Mario Kart as we know it now. I mean, it
I would
introduced
agree.
the blue shell for better or worse for one. So.
Hey, that's the best version of the blue shell because it will kill everyone in the way, not just the person in front.
Yeah, it has a huge explosion radius. That's right.
And
No, it doesn't explode. No, it just keeps going.
Oh, it barrels through everyone. Oh yeah, no. That's
Yeah, in later editions, it flies, it explodes, and only affects the person in front. Not the case in 64, where it's actually a viable tool for catch-up purposes, and not just
And not just a,
screw the person in first place tool in later games.
Yeah, not just a kingmaker. That's a really good point.
It's more of a king slayer, but that's it.
Oh,
I'm also gonna say in regard to actually preferring the N64 sequel over the Super NES original, I would also have to say I'd rather play Star Fox 64 than the original Star Fox.
64 kicks ass. That's a great game.
hard to argue with that. I do like the original Star Fox quite a lot, but I'm sure that its curious frame rate and triangular graphics might be a little weird for some to approach nowadays. 64 is a more comprehensive game overall.
I think SNES Star Fox has the better music, but I do think 64 is a better play, broadly speaking.
Agreed on both segments, yeah.
I remember playing Star Fox back when it first came out, and I was just like, yeah, I'm not feeling this.
I
I
like
get it.
Star Fox on Super NES. It was never a favorite of mine, but I thought it was neat enough as a kid. I've only ever played like 15 minutes of Star Fox 64.
That's fair. I do like the weird slot machine dimension that you can access in the SNES game.
Oh, the black hole is great.
Yeah, that
one
was
of the
neat.
weirdest fucking Easter eggs I've ever played in any game. Just, it's a fun one. They definitely had fun with that, at least for what it was worth with the Super FX chip. Probably the most. I believe the SNES's hardware is pretty custom. And had like several additional chips that could be added onto it. It took like the FX chip,
the Super FX chip, yeah.
Yes, it took like the sequel of that to finally run Doom on the SNES, and while it didn't run great, it just ran at all. So that's pretty impressive.
I might get some weird looks from y'all for saying this, but speaking of the slot machine section of Star Fox and how weird it was, there is an SNES game that involves a slot machine that I'm actually a very big fan of. In fact, I would play this game with a lot of members of my family. We used to rent this game all the time. I don't know why we ended up like not buying it, because we would rent it all the time. Published by Nintendo, I believe developed by DICE, Vegas Stakes.
Vegas Stakes, that's a good one.
I'm a big fan of Vegas Stakes, and I hate like gambling. Like, it terrifies me. I'm afraid to gamble in real life. Like, I'm petrified.
You should be. That's fair. That's fair. That's
Super Nintendo Vegas Stakes. Holy shit! I love Vegas Stakes so much. I love playing.
Question: Is this by the same? Is this the one that was like the SNES follow-up to Vegas Dream on the NES?
Yes. It was developed by the same people, DICE.
Yes.
Right, okay.
Yes. I grew up.
See, I played Vegas. I had Vegas Dreams when I was young. I never learned about Vegas Stakes until much later. I think Dreams is the better of the two, but Stakes is still pretty solid by what I understand.
Stakes is a lot more advanced, but I still have a nostalgic for Dream.
I understand the nostalgia for Dream, and I like elements of Dream, but I feel like Vegas Stakes is a little punchier and a little faster. Like, everything just goes a little faster. And
Let's be clear. I'm not talking about it for the purpose of the gambling considerations. I'm talking about, hey, do you want to get married? Yes, no. And then ending up on the most bored news network of all time, just going, this buffoon, yes!
Reports on some guy falling down the stairs, i.e. you. What the fuck?
Yes! That's why Vegas Dream is good. Yeah. It's not the gambling, it's the fact that it's on crack.
And then, like,
lovably weird, yeah.
But the weird thing is, Vegas Stakes is also weird, because, like, during random parts of gameplay, no matter what casino you go to, you'll have people just randomly come up to you and be like, oh, I think I sprained my ankle. Can you help me go to the emergency room, please? Or someone will literally offer to clean a spot off your shirt. Like, you're being talked to like you're a toddler. Like, oh, can I get that spot for you? I'm like, I'm a grown adult, thank you. And like, you'll have people like, oh, well, I got this scratch-off lottery ticket, and do you want the other half of it? It could be a lucky number, and you also have, like, people who will pickpocket you. And like, you'll know if it's a pickpocket because after someone says, like, offers something to you or whatever, and you say yes, like, two minutes later, a cop will appear on screen and say, we've had a recent rash of pickpocketers, and then the text box will say, you check your pockets. And there's a yes or no chance of being pickpocketed and losing all your money. Like, that's why I love Vegas Stakes.
Jesus.
Like, Vegas Stakes is super weird, but, like, here's the thing. It's super weird, but the actual gambling is super quick and fast-paced. Like, it cuts all the fat. It gets right to the point, and I love it.
Yeah, but both Dream and Stakes have the encounters, and honestly, I think that they're a place that puts them a cut above your normal gambling game, because it's a sort of gambling.
Absolutely.
It's meta gambling practically.
And also, like,
it basically is, because you're being given a yes/no gamble.
Mm-hmm.
You have a 50-50 chance on do you pick the thing that preserves or earns you money, or do you pick the thing that makes you lose money?
Yes.
Yeah, it's a
And
really neat mechanic. And
I also really like the soundtrack to Vegas Stakes. Like the casino
chill,
songs
yeah.
are a little like redundant. Like I wish they could have looped a little longer than how they loop in game, but like they're still really memorable songs. I love the Future Casinos music. I love that. That song rules. That song's super catchy. I also love The Hideaway. The Hideaway has like such a relaxing song, and I love the cowboy bar music. That song is like I know I'm normally not the biggest fan of like country music, but the song they made for that casino is like stupid catchy. It's like, oh my god, Super Nintendo country music, and it's actually good.
Yeah, I did want to say that nostalgic root in Dreams. I do think Stakes is definitely a more refined game, and my favorite thing about it is the fact that there are 5 different casinos that you can go to that are essentially like levels of progress. Like you start on like the basic one that's basically like the Golden Palace, and if you do good, then you can go on to Cowboy one and then to the Future one. And if you do really good, you go to the super high expensive one where there's no betting.
The Golden, I think it's called the Golden L'Oreal. And
yeah, Laurel Palace or something like that.
Yeah, Laurel Palace. Yeah. Sorry, my apologies, the Laurel Palace. And also, there's even a bonus casino that's made for people who are like total beginners. Like, if you're too afraid to use the Golden Palace where you start off, there's a the Hideaway is like a gambling easy mode, because all of the bets. All of the bets and stakes for the cash payouts are super low. Like that's like there's literally a slot machine in the Hideaway that's literally $1, like just $1.
Yes. Yeah, I just think that the quote unquote there is just a really neat conceit. And I wanted to point out 2 things about the casino. One, those are some really good looking like future costumes that like the personnel are wearing. They're like actual cyborgs or something.
Yeah, the cyborg looking dudes are like, wow, holy crap. I wonder how much that makeup costs. That's amazing.
They look like they're like at a front mission or something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
And 2, I think it's a really bad omen by today's standards that casino's named the 2020.
Yeah.
I just wanted to mention that. Anyway, really cool game. Glad you brought attention to it.
I gotta say that we spent more time talking about Vegas Stakes than I ever thought we would. Which, considering
I did too, but
it was none. But I wanted, as an aside, Kyle, you said you're scared of actually gambling, right? How about working in a casino?
I feel like I'd be a little less scared, but like, I don't want to deal with like pissed off gamblers or drunken people, because I've dealt
fair.
I have dealt with drunks in my life, and some of them can get pretty nasty.
Well, let me just tell you, I've been there and done it. I worked security in a casino for about 5 years.
Oh, wow.
You did?
Mm-hmm. And it was a trip.
Yeah. How many drunks did you deal with?
I lost count.
Oh, God.
Mainly, considering I worked the swing shift primarily, which was about 4:30 to 12:30. Although I did do some overtime on the overnight shift. So, all right, Brandon, have a good night.
Man.
I see you, Brandon. You take care now.
Hi, Brandon. Thanks for joining us.
Eventually,
thank you so much. Yes.
Eventually, I went to the day shift, and that was, a lot less on the drunks, but more on the old people who would like keel over at the machines.
Oh no!
or piss themselves or something.
Ooh,
Oh, I could tell you stories. Believe me, I could tell you stories. On the other hand, I did get to meet a bunch of famous people.
Nice. Yeah. That's awesome.
So
your stories are just making me think of a friend of mine who would bounce at BDSM clubs.
That had to have been something.
BDSM clubs, that's amazing.
Very interesting.
I would love to hear the stories from, like, I would love to hear both of your stories. Like, wow.
Oh.
Well, it wouldn't be my stories, it'd be a friend of mine's.
Oh, I know, but, like, that's what I mean. Like, I'd love to hear your friend's stories, and I would also love to hear Rod's stories. Like, wow.
Well, shameless plug, you'll be able to read some of my stories before too much longer, I hope.
Yes!
Because the follow-up to Eating Candy in Outer Space is going to be about the work stories and everything that happened after that.
Oh, nice.
Nice. I'm so excited.
I have got some good stories about some of the people I encountered there. I'll give you a sneak preview of one, though. This is more funny than anything else. This dude, pretty clearly drunk, comes up to me. I'm roving the floor, right? And he says, Hey, buddy, I was gambling with these two sisters, and then I left and went up to go to the bathroom. Now I came back, and I can't find them. Where are they? What did they look like? They were sisters.
Okay.
Where do you remember where you were?
Nothing.
It was a place with a lot of machines. I'd look around at the 1,400 machines we had on the floor. And then finally I was just like, okay, this conversation is going nowhere. Maybe they're over here by the steakhouse. Oh, yeah, thanks, man. Okay.
Wow.
I feel like I hit you with another one that's a little risque, but...
No need to.
Oh, this one's fun. I didn't see... Let me just say, I didn't see anything, but we all know what was going on.
I mean, I work in an adult store now. You can tell me.
Oh, yeah. I got no problem telling this story.
But it's not about the SNES.
Right? Hey, we're digressing for a couple of minutes here.
Exactly.
Whatever.
Anyway, so I'm roving the floor again, right? I see one of the posts. There's this one of my fellow officers is talking to this couple. Dude, just, maybe, I don't know, late 20s, early 30s. Dressed regular. Girl he was with, though, she was wearing this dress that looked like it was just made out of leather straps. And,
I know the type.
Yeah, so, it's basically being held on by the stares of every man around. Well, after a minute, they walk off. So I go up to, I forget what his name was. I'm like, nice dress. What'd they want? Oh, she said she has a restroom phobia, and she wants to know if there is a place where her boyfriend could help her out in the bathroom. I was like, yeah, what'd you tell him? Well, I suggested the little family restroom down there. It's like, oh, that's great. Lots of privacy, locking door. I'm going to wander down this way. So I did. And I made it a point to be right across from that when the door opened. And she comes out. She's all flushed. Her legs are trembling. And he comes out strutting like a fucking peacock. And then they both see me. And they freeze. And all I did, I just looked at him, flashed him a very quick thumbs up, and turned and walked away.
That's brilliant.
If you want to read more, you'll just have to wait till the book comes out. So
Excellent.
Super NES. Rather than go on to any games immediately, I think it would be a good idea at this point in time for us to maybe tell some personal stories, like how we first played it. We can go in order around the table, starting with Kyle.
Okay, sure. Well, so when I was born at the beginning of a decade. Like literally at like the very like how you're born in like 1980 or 1970 or 1990. Well, yeah, I was born at the very beginning of a decade. So, in 1990, I was born, and my family actually did have an NES, and we actually kept our NES. But
Nice.
I was lucky enough to get a Super Nintendo. My brothers, I think, pretty much got the Super Nintendo when they were growing up, and I was, being a baby. Anyways, so throughout pretty much the 90s, I got to literally grow up with the Super Nintendo in my early years. And, yeah, that's pretty much how I discovered it. I remember being about 3 to 4 years old and growing up with, playing Super Mario World, playing The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past, playing and this is a game and a series that's very near and dear to my heart. In fact, I literally I'm a huge fan of the series because of this experience. My family, one of the few games we actually owned for the Super Nintendo, was Mystical Ninja, and
right.
that's how I grew into my fandom of Goemon. And yes, so I literally grew up with the Super Nintendo, and I remember being in 1984, 1995, and playing stuff like Earthbound and playing Super Metroid. I remember Super Metroid actually really scaring me as a kid. Like, there were times where it's just like, okay, I'll play this, and then like, okay, I'm too scared, I gotta play something happy. And then like, I get too weirded out or something. And then I remember discovering stuff like Earthbound and Mario RPG and Chrono Trigger and the Final Fantasies, and just discovering all these games. And I remember discovering little hidden gems that I always carried with me in my life. Like something that I was hoping to talk about, and I'm happy to talk about it right here. A lot of the Natsume developed games, like the Ninja Warriors and the Power Rangers games, and Wild Guns. And which, by the way, speaking of licensed stuff, where I actually don't really care for the license, but I love the video games nonetheless. Yeah, the Power Rangers games. I'm kind of a fan. I'm pretty fair weather on Power Rangers stuff. Like, I like Super Sentai, it's fine. But yeah, those Power Rangers games are excellent. But yeah, I pretty much, from literally the beginning of my life, I grew up with the Super Nintendo. And that's pretty much my history of Super Nintendo. Like, is literally growing up with it in my early years.
Nice. And hey, Brandon, welcome in.
Welcome back.
Hey to another Brandon. Yes.
Yep.
Exactly.
Hello, Brandon.
It's just Brandon's all the way down.
Yeah. I know a guy at work named Brandon. He's pretty cool.
Yeah. All right, Forneia, what about you?
So I was born in '86, and my first actual game experience was on the Atari 800 XL or something like that. But we did get an SNES in the early years, and we got a Super Nintendo when they rolled around. The first time I ever noodled with it was at a demo station at a Toys R Us in Glendale, I want to say. And they had Super Mario World on the demo station. That was fine. I think they actually had it at the the Bowser fight for some reason. I don't know. I just remember that being a very firm thing that I remember for some reason. But eventually, we get the thing, and skip ahead a bit. I don't like Mario World. I don't like Zelda 3. I played Wanderers from Ys, which is Ys 3, which is the worst version of that game, but I ended up playing that one a lot with the benefit of a Game Genie.
That's good.
Honestly, I played your what do you call it? Your Donkey Kong Country. I played Donkey Kong Country 2 more because that was a little more my speed. The game I think I played more than the rest, realistically speaking, though, was Plock.
Yay! We're all Plock fans here. I appreciate that.
I'm a Plock OG, and that's why I say Plock did nothing wrong, and anyone who says that Plock is bad is just poor.
Yeah,
play Plock.
Plock.
No, really, play it, and I mean actually play it.
Yeah,
learn that game. It is worth it. But
it is. The final area, the pit is a bitch, but it's a really good ride-up.
The point where the SNES really kicks off for me is after I started getting into emulation, because I did start noodling with stuff that was not available on this side of the pond. And in particular, I got involved very early on with the Aeon Genesis translation project community, who are responsible for a lot of translation patches of numerous games which have been mentioned already, such as Gundam Wing Endless Duel, were done by AGTP. But I think the most formative game that I played in terms of things that I emulated, mind, I'm in my teenage years at this point, my late teens, was Seiken Densetsu 3, which was basically one of the more high-profile translation patches of the time, it being the immediate follow-up for the work of the first person to actually do a localization effort and not just like a direct translation effort in the fan patch scene. And as a result, it's one of the better ones out there. And given that, it was a game that released, I think, genuinely in 1999 in Japan, it's one of the last games out there on the actual hardware. And, it's got its bugs, it's got its problems, and like mechanical flaws. But confound it, I could not help but be drawn, for reasons unknown to me at the time, but now I really understand why, to the tale of a princess who had no magical capability despite being born to a mage queen in a magic kingdom, and the only thing that she has going for her is that she looks good and no one likes her because she can't use magic and everyone looks down on her. And then goes on to learn it through means outside of where she comes from. And then, oh, hey, this thing I was without for the longest time is what everyone else is going to be dealing with now. I wonder if this was a there were no signs moment for me being trans.
Wait, which game is this?
Second Densetsu 3. Densetsu 3. Angela's story has always been very personal to me.
Yeah.
Because, by, cis male standards, I was always very attractive, but I never felt attractive because I didn't see anything valuable about myself, and I was always bullied, abused, and treated poorly by everyone around me, domestically or otherwise. And it wasn't until I had basically found my own, companionship outside of that and managed to learn, how to be me, both physically and, mentally, that I was able to learn to love myself, calm down, and actually be genuinely beautiful. If that's not a parallel, I don't know what is.
Well, it's I can see why you'd feel that way, actually,
I'm glad you found a game that you could connect with on that level.
Exactly.
Definitely.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't hurt that Angela is hot and the best character.
Yeah, and she slaps her ass, and she's very provocative, and she's cool. Yeah, I like her.
Yeah, I'm working at an All-Star. Hi.
Exactly.
Anyway, I have anything else to say, or?
I mostly just have thoughts on the fan patch scene, and there's the infamous Tales of Fantasia translation out there by the very unfortunately named translation group DJAP.
DJAP, yeah, we know this one.
And I'm just going to say,
of the Feline King.
I'm just going to say, play the PlayStation translation instead.
Yeah, a good endorsement for the version that is not the SNES one. I agree.
That being said, the SNES version does have the theme song.
Oh yeah, it had actual fucking vocals on it, right?
Yes, it has actual vocals in it, and that's why the cartridge size is so large. I think it's genuinely the largest Super Famicom game as a result of this.
Wow.
Yeah,
That theme song fucks like a tiger.
Thank you, Kay. Thank you so much. We
And that was a very nice comment that Tristan left.
yeah,
I did see that, yes.
Mhm.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
So, all right. Now, how about you, Mike? What's your experience?
You expect me to follow Forneia's story adequately? No whole fucking way. I can't.
No,
I mean, in fairness, who can?
yeah, no,
Exactly.
even I can't.
Fair.
Okay.
Jiminy, I've never seen myself as much of a personal storyteller. Like, I just got the thing for Christmas. I don't know if it was like 91, 2 or whatever, but I've been playing the thing all throughout the 90s and just taking in whatever games seemed really good for it, and whatever allowance we'd get, which back then was just basically like $20 a week. I would save up for games that just looked like I would really freaking like them a lot, like Kirby Superstar and Mega Man 7, aforementioned, being two that I remember really relishing going for. And well, I guess this is a fair point to dovetail into as any, because while I know one of you has a low opinion on this game than others, most of the others are really super fond of it. I was just suckered in by this large game box, like really large, with this like golden robot-y looking fellow on it and a psychedelic background, and just the fact that the game box was as big as it was what attracted me to it. That, as we know now, is Earthbound, and the reason it came in such a large box was because it came with the strategy guide along with the game, which was a very interesting package deal. It was like their kind of thing, like there's a lot to this game. We're just going to give you the guide as the manual, because there's
literally my favorite video game of all time, straight up.
And alongside Super Metroid, this might be one that I would say I might potentially call the best game on the SNES. Now, I don't want to fillet it too much. I know not everybody loves Earthbound. There are definitely faults to be picked with it. Like, the battle system is basic and the difficulty curve is really inconsistent and all that. And yeah, not wrong about all of that, but I don't know. I just it just felt a little bit on the nose that here's a kid in a warped, weird, like a sort of like very early sort of take on a new weird game where it's like it takes place in a contemporary setting, but like there are like bizarre hippies and annoying old party men who will attack you just on the streets, but also more fantastical things like those fucking trees that explode on you. And then eventually like actual
you
like
fight cups of coffee.
Yes, cups of coffee, stop signs, like possessed
Mad
cars
taxis?
a la Christine's. Yes, the mad taxis, yes.
I maintain that the trees are the best part of the entire game. Okay, no. I take that back, because there is one thing that a lot of people around me know that I quote all the damn time, and that is because I will show you the true power of being the third strongest.
The moles! Yes, I love that game.
And I just want to point out, as soon as I said that, my girlfriend right next to me snorted.
I mean, like, even if it is a recolor, I just thought that was a really clever and bizarre, like, running gag within the Desert Underground dungeon, whatever it was called. It's been a while. And the thing that gets me was that...
Dusty Dunes Desert.
Yes, thank you for it. The thing that gets me is that they actually have number 3 printed in the background, and that's specific to like they're really going all in on this gag. I respect that.
And I like the justification. How do I know I'm the third strongest? Each one of us fought with the other 4. Each one of us defeated 2 and lost to the other 2. Thus, I am the third strongest.
It's a very clever math gag, I gotta say. It's like something
it really is,
or whatever. But yeah, I mean, its gameplay is at least quick, and it does have, if you sneak up an opponent, and you get a free attack on the thing. But like, even if its gameplay is somewhat say that it's not too far above like Dragon Quest and its mechanics, I at least appreciate how really efficient it is in that regard. But really, the reason I just love Earthbound as much as I do is just due to its vibes. I know it's a bit of an overused word nowadays, but I really don't know how better to put it. Like, it's got a really extensive soundtrack. It goes to all sorts of places, from the atmospheric to the catchy to the outright creepy at times.
And here's where I have my interjection.
Yeah, Foreign, go ahead. This is my story. Go ahead.
We're talking about Earthbound, and we were talking about, and I've said this beforehand, I'm of the opinion that Earthbound is the weakest of the 3 Mother games. I'm not saying it's bad. It's still very good. But anytime anyone brings up the soundtrack, most of the tracks in Earthbound that a lot of people remember came from Mother 1.
Yeah,
yes,
I get that.
That is a good point. A lot of it was remixed from the first game, which also had a classic soundtrack. And I will grant you that in some ways I also love Mother 3 even more than Earthbound, I would say. It is.
I think 3 is the strongest, and
it's really fucking good, yeah. And that we still have not seen the official Western version in what is now.
Oh, that's not going to happen. They can't do it. There's trans.
I know it won't. I know there's problems. Actually, no. Even the word the mag. That's kind of an iffy word to say out loud.
No, it's not mag. It's the bad part. It's the second half of that. That's the bad word.
Exactly. Yeah. Yes. Exactly.
Yes.
Because it is a legitimate. It is a legitimate racial slur. So.
Unfortunately,
which I'm guessing was not known at the time because a lot of folks aren't even aware that it's a slur.
Yeah. And being that the translation by Mato was done just like a year or two, I forget even when after.
2008. It was 2008.
2 years after. Yep. So, that's all unfortunate and all, but I am at least I got to experience it in that way, because it did make me cry at the end. I forget if Earthbound itself had its effect. Yep, I would hope so.
I cry. I still cry at the end of Earthbound.
Yeah, and yes, Earthbound does a list of that.
I don't get an emotional response from Earthbound. I do get one from Mother 3 and Mother 1. That's broadly why I consider them stronger.
I get emotional responses from all the Mother games, all of them.
Yeah. I mean, I can see where Earthbound and where many of its ideas were already done in its predecessor, and how it's sort of like the under-respected child. I will say, I do find Mother 1 kind of mechanically to contend with, but that's
it absolutely is, but its story is the best one of the three.
Yeah, its story definitely goes to really.
When it remembers it has a story, it's the best story.
Yeah, that's another very good way of putting it. Yes, but I love that entire. But Earthbound was my introduction to was for almost everybody in the West, and even if a lot of it is rooted in nostalgia, asterisks, and whatnot, it is just really, really fun, and for me, and just an excellent journey that I would love to explore again sometime, that I would definitely be looking forward to. Except for the swamp part. That part honestly kind of sucks, but they can't all be fakers.
Okay. Well, Jay, I'm sorry they used up all our time we were going to have to discuss Earthbound, so I'm afraid you have to talk Final Fantasy when we get to the RPG section.
Sorry.
Speaking of Earthbound, no, I'm going to just...
All right.
Okay, then.
Anyway, Jay, what about you? What was your introduction and everything they've been talking about?
So, I grew up in the 80s. I've been born in the 70s, but basically the 80s, getting into some of my first systems, such as the Atari, NES, that major introduction to a lot of the games that segue into the Super Nintendo. And my first real experience with the Super Nintendo would have been at my friend's place. He bought the Super Nintendo before I even remotely had a chance to even get it. And we started playing games like Super Mario World, and I was like, whoa, this is very colorful and all of that, even though I can't see colors the same way, because I'm colorblind too. But the music was fun, and it was such a great game at the time. There's a lot better Super Mario games out there nowadays, but then he rented what was probably my favorite game on the system itself, Final Fantasy II. Mm-hmm. And that's what got me really into the RPG genre, even though I have played Final Fantasy I, Dragon Warrior, so things like that. I kept at it with my parents. I want that system so bad. But I ended up buying it myself, and with babysitting money and things like that. And I just kept playing more and more RPGs, and that's the reason why it's my favorite system of all time. Not necessarily the best system of all time, There are other ones that are better. I can admit that. But it is because of the Final Fantasy series. Did like Chrono Trigger until Chrono Cross came along, and I think I almost love Chrono Cross a little bit more.
Agree.
Yeah, me.
Yep, I know.
Mike's reining himself in right now. Wait until the RPGs, Mike.
Go ahead, Jake.
Continue your tale. Continue your tale.
But anyway, then some of the great action platforms that we've already mentioned, such as Super Metroid, which is one of my favorite games of that system as well, and Legend of Mystical Ninja that you mentioned before. Like they're almost top 5 games. I love the music. I love the games. I love the music. The controller is such a good field controller on that one. I don't know. It's hard to explain all of my experience with it because I just go back to playing it every year, all these games. So, yeah, I have a shorter story. It's right to the point. I just love the system.
Yeah, ain't no problem with that.
No, not at all. So, how about you then, Kate?
So I'd written up some notes, but I also kind of touched on a lot of what I would have brought up earlier in the roundtable, so I'm just gonna go off the cuff.
Okay.
So
freestyle, yo.
Yeah. So I was also very young when the Super NES came out, so I basically grew up with the Super NES, and it was one of many systems that I grew up with because my family just had a lot of game systems in the house since before I was born. So I'd already been exposed to stuff like the Atari 2600 and NES and ColecoVision and whatnot. So the Super NES wasn't a first for me in that regard. And also, since I was very young, I don't actually remember how I was introduced to it per se. I couldn't tell you what the first game I played on it was or anything. It was just kind of always there as a kid, and it made a very big impact on me, thanks to some games that we've already mentioned, like the Mega Man X trilogy or the Donkey Kong Country trilogy, and there are some others that also made a big impact on me growing up, such as Illusion of Gaia, which was an action RPG, kind of like Zelda, but with more of a focus on a linear story. And that game in particular was very story-driven and had a strong focus on its presentation, which wasn't a super common thing at the time, but that made a big impression on me, so I really do adore that game in a lot of ways. And also the Super NES would end up just generally shaping my taste in video games in a big way, and part of that is through the fact that the first RPG that I ever played was Final Fantasy VI on the Super NES. I remember, before I was even going to play it myself, my dad was playing Final Fantasy VI, and he had me try out the game while he was grinding in the Velt, and would teach me how to use the fight command and whatnot in battle. And then, a couple years later, I used a player's guide in order to beat the game, so that was my first ever time playing an RPG, and now that's one of my favorite genres of game. So that was a very big deal for me, and that's one reason why the Super NES is very important to me. And I also just have continued to find and enjoy new games to play through on the Super NES over the course of my time existing, even growing into an adult. Like, in 2008, I imported Umihara Kawase, which is my favorite platformer of all time now, and that's a Super Famicom game.
I love that game.
Yeah, it uses a grappling hook, and it's really fun, and I adore it. And then there's also Contra 3: The Alien Wars, which is a really great Super NES run and gun shooter.
Oh yes.
And Then there were also games like, I remember renting as a kid Ninja Warriors, and then much later in time, I would actually get the chance to play through it in full. And yeah, that's a great single-plane beat-'em up. And then there's like other assorted games that I've really gotten into, such as Shadowrun or like Wild Guns or whatnot. And I think
hell yeah,
the
Wild Guns.
Fuck yeah.
I think the most recent game that I've played for the system that really was a revolutionary experience for me in a sense would be Brandish, which I played through I think late last fall. And like for the past several years I've been getting into Falcom's games. They didn't have the biggest spotlight on the Super NES. They had like some games, many of which didn't come out officially in English, but one of them that did was Brandish, and I really like its approach to action RPG gameplay. It's kind of like on one hand, it's a grid-based dungeon crawler, but it also has an overhead perspective, kind of like what you would see in a Zelda game. So the way that it mashes the two together, it's something that a lot of people tend to not like, but it personally really clicked with me tremendously, and I had a wonderful time playing it from start to finish. I really love Brandish. So yeah, to this day, the Super NES continues to be a system that I really adore. I really like the 16-bit era in general. I've been discovering a lot of Genesis and TurboGrafx games that I love. But when I think back to the Super NES, I still really love the system. I still think it's one of the best, if not possibly the best systems I've ever played. I really adore this system. I love the Super NES.
Yeah, I'm still discovering things that I haven't got recently. I finally got around to Magical Poppin', if you've heard of that one. I had a blast with that one. That was really fucking good.
Nice.
It just keeps on going.
That's a really fun game.
Oh, it's excellent. It's definitely one of the best import titles for the thing. And
incidentally, another AGTP work.
Yeah,
that's right. They did translate that shit.
In fact, something I want to confess to, since a lot of y'all have been rolling out with saying this, I was a little intimidated at first to say it, but the Super Nintendo is straight up my favorite console of all time. Like, there's a lot of video game consoles that I love, but like, the Super Nintendo is always number one in my heart.
Kyle, that I cannot disagree with that. I know someone who can, though.
Oh, don't look at me.
Wink.
Don't look at me, Mike. No.
I am. Not you.
For me, it's really hard to compete with the system that has Umihara Kawase. That's like a top 5 of all time for me. I really love it.
Umihara is an excellent game. I'm terrible at it, but it's got a lot of great
You just have to practice. That's all.
Yeah. I gotta put into it.
It's all about the physics. It's all about the physics.
Boing, boing.
One of my worst high school subjects, but again, practice. That's all.
My God.
But yes. So yeah. Rob, I guess you go if you haven't yet.
I haven't yet, so I think I will.
Okay, cool.
Please do.
Dyer's War Journal. Entry number 6504. September 1991. I've come to the conclusion that there will always be another battle. Always another war.
Oh my God.
I've been in the trenches for over a decade at this point. One would think I'd be tired of these endless wars by now, but yet I find myself being more invigorated than ever. You see, the news coming out of Japan is very interesting right now. They're about to drop a bomb on us. A very promising bomb at that. In all seriousness, no, September 91, my friend Bromley got a Super NES. So, I stayed the night over his place, and we basically stayed up all night playing Super Mario World, because that was the only game we had. On a side note, the reason I stayed over is because the next day we were going to Universal Studios, Florida. And while I was there, I found Splatterhouse. in arcades for the first and almost last time, but that's a different story entirely.
Hell yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It all links together.
Oh yes,
Spider-House guy himself.
it's like a
cast. Da, 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 da.
it's like a tapestry, and this is a castle, and we have many tapestries.
I was slow to the punch, but
Oh no, that's the worst joke I tell tonight.
This is a castle, and we have many tapestries. But if you are a Scottish lord, then I am Mickey Mouse.
How dare he?
So anyway, what happened after that was I had to wait until graduation to actually get my own console. Bromley was picking up games for it, though, so I was definitely getting to see the best that came out. Like, I think he picked up Pilot Wings and F-Zero shortly after that.
Ooh, I like Pilot Wings.
Pilot Wings, for a tech demo, was pretty damn impressive.
I love that game. Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, I actually, believe it or not, Pilot Wings 64 before the original, but I like both of them much.
They're different beasts, but they're both very good.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
And I will say the first time that I got to see Gradius 3 was a revelation. It was like, because at this point, I'd never played any of the arcade games because they were just never around, you know. I'm starting to wonder if any of them were really distributed in the U.S. at all. But this was such a jump above the NES Gradius and Life Force that it was, wow. And Bromley had picked it up when he had he left school, well, he didn't leave school early, but his mom was coming to pick him up after band practice. I didn't feel like sticking around, so I just hopped the bus and went home. He calls me later, and he's like, we stopped at Walmart after we left. Guess what I got? And I could hear something playing in the background. I'm like, and then it clicked. And like, you didn't, it's out? It's like, yeah, that's awesome. And I ended up going to his place that night. He had the game, he had everything set up, so he turned it on when I walked into his room, and yeah, that white grid came up, and then that Konami logo, just with the laser beam and all. And then just watching that simple cinematic of the Vic Viper launching from the mothership. And I was just, you know, jaw on the floor at that point, even though I'd seen similarly impressive things on the Genesis by then. But if this was Gradius, this was, no, this is something entirely different. Anyway, as time went on, eventually got my own. He got Castlevania 4 for Christmas that year.
All right.
And he picked up Contra 3 when that came out. I had, when I graduated, my parents bought me the console as a gift. I had graduation money come in from relatives and whatnot, so I proceeded to go out and pick up Castlevania 3, Castlevania 4, Contra 3, and Gradius 3. And then
Holy Trinity.
Castlevania 4, Contra 3, Millwall 1.
What's better? Gradius. That's what's better. And then, yeah, let's see, that was 92, so that Christmas was Axley.
Oh, right.
And, you know, at that point, if it had just been those 4 games, I would have been done. But there was a lot of other good stuff out there, and I'm glad I got to play it all.
Absolutely. Like, I think, like, the conceit, great as it is, that it really had a free diverse palette of genres, like almost anything they could at what's that?
Tristan said the correct answer was Phalanx.
Yes, good old Wink Barfield, which we run him up, but you know, he can't forget old Wink and his service to United whatever force that's in that game. I haven't played Phalanx much. I need to put more time into it, actually.
Fun game.
Yes, it is quite good.
I am actually rather glad I picked up the Super Famicom version of that as opposed to the Super NES one. I don't have to deal with hillbillies and banjos.
No kidding.
I will actually defend that box art Because, okay, sure, it's ridiculous and it doesn't really represent the game very well, but it's very memorable.
Extremely.
Everyone knows the Phalanx box.
Yes.
It's hard to forget. Yeah, can't argue.
Everyone knows
That
the
is true.
Phalanx box for how weird it is to just have old Banjo Man.
Yep.
Yep.
And if you want someone to be interested in your product, you want them to remember it. And they succeeded on that front. It may not have been within its time frame, and that's unfortunate for it, but people remember Phalanx for that box art.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
On a related yet unrelated side note, I want to know what was up with Activision bringing Super Famicom games over here and then giving them soundtracks by like 2 Unlimited. Looking at you, Biometal.
I was going to say, you mentioned Biometal. That's why that was a very weird and dumb fucking move. And then they did the same thing again with Maniac, or as it's known as over here, Excalibur 2097, which is also a really stupid title. So
yeah, Sword Maniac.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. I much prefer that game. The Sword Maniac actually. We already mentioned him once, but soundtrack by Hitoshi Sakamoto also.
Yeah,
the Western version was done by some flash-in-the-pan techno band. One of its members became one of the most terrible... Elaborate.
But how
One of the most terrible what?
Yeah, you kind of blanked
You
out.
cut out there. Yeah, Satanga, you blanked out.
My fucking mic, piece of shit. I get a lemon with this fucking Yeti. That's why.
I'm going to guess that it's not the microphone. I'm going to guess it's a Discord setting.
Yeah, it's
Oh.
the
Yeah.
Discord setting.
Yeah, if
Yeah,
you go
it
down
probably
to voice and video, real quick, and then just scroll down to where it says automatically determine input sensitivity. Is that on?
Voice and video. Hang on.
Yeah, I remember bringing that up a while ago. Did you
okay,
ever change
input-
that?
Okay, right. It is on, yes.
Turn it
Turn
Turn
off.
that off. Turn it the hell off and bring it down to negative 75 decibels.
Okay, sounds good. I'll make sure to get on that and observe that for the future.
Maybe this
Thank
will
you.
fix the problem.
It solves everything about that.
Gotcha.
But, by the way, for the folks watching the roundtable, if you don't remember who Tour Unlimited is, here's the one song they did.
It's like,
Yeah.
It's like, I'm sorry, am I playing Biometal or NBA Jam?
Yeah, exactly. Y'all ready for this?
Yeah. Sandstorm by Darude was better. I'm sorry.
Can't argue with
Oh,
that.
I know someone who would fight you for that.
Oh, well, they can if they want to.
Oh,
Also, I like
boy.
Zombie Nation more. But anyway, yes. Where did we want to go now, sir?
Well, I think we need to move on to RPGs, despite the fact that we had 2 retro RPG roundtables, but this is known as the system of RPGs, so...
Yeah.
Which is
I love
part of the
RPG.
reason why you're not as fond of it, because I know those are generally poison to you.
So I'm gonna lead off with this one here. Thanks to Jay's help, I was able to finish my first Super NES RPG and also my last Super NES RPG. The albatross has been hanging around my neck for 33 fucking years. Ever since Brawley took his copy that I've been working on and sold it out from under me. There went all my progress. I was on the damn moon. Final Fantasy II over here. So yes, I finally beat the damn game. And
Congrats. That's awesome.
I'm not going to lie, I did have some fun while playing it, even if it did take me 4 years. And that's from when I started this playthrough. It was like 4 years ago. But you know, things happen. I went for over a year without playing it at one point. But I picked up and just kept going and finally really sped things up in the last couple of months. And there it was. So, yeah. All right. So with that, I'm going to turn this over to Jay first to go ahead and kick things off.
Before we do that, may I make my comments on FF4?
Yeah, I suppose so. Sure.
By all means.
Oh yeah, that's right. Go ahead.
So, FF4 was genuinely the first Final Fantasy that I ever played that was actually a Final Fantasy, and not a Mana game or a Saga game in US localization disguise.
Hmm.
And I actually don't like it.
Yeah, I remember that you really hate Cecil a lot. I do recall that.
Ah, yes. Cecil, burner of villages, Harvey.
Yeah, and you call him like
Cecil, leave the women behind, Harvey. Cecil, employer of children, Harvey. I feel like they completely fumble the characterization of what is supposed to be a redemption story for a character. They have him start as a Dark Knight, which, he does for reasons. And over his course of serving his king, he performs, war crimes and heinous acts and comes to feel like, are we the baddies? And is a sympathetic character. And, for realizing, hey, wait, this is super messed up. I have problems with this, He gets thrown out, demoted, and they try to basically use him as like a suicide bomb deliverer.
Yeah.
And his whole story in the early arcs where he's trying to do the right thing and other such things are very, very sympathetic, and you can appreciate with him. Then comes the part where they have him become a paladin, which it turns out is nepotism because the test is run by his father. And after that, he becomes a misogynist asshole who has learned nothing!
Wow.
I never looked at it that way.
I hate that he's the poster child for the Dark Knight amongst Final Fantasy, because he's the worst one!
Jesus, Forn, take it down a fucking notch.
And here I thought I was going to have to jump on Mike about ranting about Chrono Trigger.
Oh, you think Satanga can compare to me? You are wrong.
I wasn't even going to try. I was going to be as nice about the game as possible. But now that I'm expected to be a heel, I guess I better get my.
Oh no, I am a
full
heel.
mask
Let's be clear.
on. I know you are.
Is this where you're
But,
into
yeah.
the chaotic evil thing?
Chaotic neutral.
Ah, okay.
I'm chaotic good. Let's
Makes
just
more
put
sense.
it like that.
But I feel like FF4 is definitely like a game that definitely cemented its place, like the series' place for a lot of people. But between the narrative faux pas and the under the hood systems being actually very jank and all tied to Cecil's ATB in particular, because ATB doesn't actually work in that game as advertised. That doesn't happen until 5. I don't actually think it's a good game. I think it's fantastic from a translation perspective, because that game has so many iterations and they're all translated different ways. And that is amazing.
No,
that is a good point.
sorry,
That is a good
Brian.
Consistent.
I was looking in the wrong direction the whole time.
They never see me coming until it's too late.
Nope.
Sneak attack.
So,
Sounds like typical WWE booking fuck-uppery.
so Jay, do you have any thoughts to share?
I don't know how I'm going to follow that.
I feel like it's
At
a
least
point
with Final
counterpoint
Fantasy
thing.
IV.
Yeah.
Honestly, the reason why I like the game so much, it's not because of its story per se, especially after learning, you played the game as a kid, you didn't really think of all that stuff. And I play it every year just because of how good I got on the game itself. But I do understand the points you have made. And I actually agree. Cecil is kind of an idiot in the game, in the grand scheme of things. I do like some of the other characters. I do like this.
Oh, yeah.
Lydia. I do like Rosa. I do like Edge. Can be a little bit.
Rydia is the best character.
Yes.
Yes,
Pretty is
Ridley-
Completely agreed.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the reason why I like the game is because it is a fast-paced RPG. You can beat if you know what you're doing. You can beat the game in less than 10, probably around 10 hours ish, which is what I do. It does.
Yeah, I know someone who speedruns the game on randomizers, and they crack out the whole thing in like 3 hours.
Yeah,
Nice.
it's broken in that sense. Music's good. It sets a stage for a lot of the Final Fantasies that came to play afterwards. They got better with some of their storylines as well.
The music is the high point, the Red Wings track in particular.
Yeah, cannot
Spot
argue
on,
with
spot on.
Uematsu ever, for the most part.
Like,
Great soundtrack.
if I may be charitable and take the mic one more time,
Because
the Red Wings track is one of the best used pieces of music that Uematsu has composed. Because the first time you hear it, it's an anthem of terror because it's demonstrating Cecil doing the bad things. And over the course of the game, it turns from, this is the theme of terror and, despair to the theme of hope and resolve.
Yeah.
It's the best
But I
track
do
in the
wish-
game.
yeah,
That's a great one.
And a slight tangent
I just
question
wish
from
they did a
Tristan
better
here.
job. Oh, what have we got?
Oh boy, okay. I have not picked up any of those, but I have seen them, and they understood the assignment.
Yeah, lots of fun stuff that I remember seeing from them. I'm not really into Magic, but it's some nice tribute.
Yeah,
I
I don't know
am-
much about that one.
They did the Kafka card very well.
Alright.
Oh, nice.
Also, everyone is very, very happy that there is a Phantom Train card. There is a Suplex card.
That's cool.
And evidently, they had to fight tooth and nail to call it Suplex because the official name for that move is Meteor Drive.
Oh,
Yep.
oh, really? Yeah, it's a Woolsey. isn't
Excuse me,
it?
Meteor Strike. Excuse me.
Well, I'm lost.
Talking about Final Fantasy VI or
Motherfucker suplex the train. That's all you need to know.
That can
Yeah.
happen, yeah.
being there. I call him Sabin most of the time. I don't know the proper translation on that, but he essentially
It's
suplexed the train.
Nash in some localities, but
From what I've looked at, the original name for that character is supposed to basically Matthias, but it doesn't really translate very well. So they just went with mostly just went with Sabin.
Sabin, yeah. But yeah, that was a crazy part of the game where he just suplexes Ghost Train.
You can have him do it. It's just part of his command list, and he can just do it. You don't have to, but it's fun.
Yeah, it's fun.
That's nuts.
He's my favorite character in that game, just because of some stuff he does in the game. It's just hilarious.
He's a fun character, despite mechanically being one of the worst ones.
yeah. I mean,
He is slow. But anyway, go back to your story. I have tangented enough.
Honestly, I don't remember what I was going to say.
Oh no.
Okay, we were talking
No.
music.
Yeah, no, I'm joking.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, it was just made. The gameplay is very easy to use. You can actually technically play with a second controller, so a couple of people can actually play that game as well. It's not in the settings, but you just pick it up and play whatever character. You can play any of them. It's just an easy, accessible RPG if you really want to get into the Final Fantasy series. It's a short one. There are better Final Fantasies out there, but it's still technically my favorite just because of how many times I played it. It just ingrained in my head and how fast I can get through it. I don't know.
yeah, no, I do like
I can respect
4.
that.
I do like
Yeah.
4 a lot. Would you say? Like character moments being what they are, I do think it at least tried to have a pretty interesting plot for its time at a time when like plot story wasn't as much of a thing for a large chunk of video games back then. But I do have to point out how incredibly stupid it is that everybody lived at the end except for Tella. That's that part where they're all coming back against the giant. That's like, you all should not have survived this. I thought you died. What's up with this shit?
Well, to be fair, most of them you can find after they supposedly died in the world before that too.
Yeah.
Well, I suppose it's just weird as all.
It's a little more justifiable in the GBA version where you can actually pick and choose your team for the final dungeon and the post dungeon.
Right. No, that's a fair point. But otherwise, I'm not sure I can say much more about FF4 and what's been said, or FF6. They're both, I think, really damn good games in their own right.
Yeah.
And 6, I do very unoriginal. Oh, go ahead, Kyle.
Sorry, I just wanted to say really quickly, I don't really have much to say on 4, except
4 was my introduction to Final Fantasy as a whole, and I also really, as like kind of flawed as the game is nowadays, when you really looking at it from from certain perspectives, I will say, I think for its time, it actually had pretty impressive like cutscenes and like character writing, especially for like the game starts off and like this is a Super Famicom RPG where like the game starts off where you're the quote unquote main character and you and your team are murdering people. Like it starts off in the airships, and like it goes to these scenes where your character and his crew are like in these little kingdoms and like they're trying to get the crystal, and they just fucking slaughter people. That's your main character, and you're just like, I have to play as him. Jesus.
And this is a Nintendo game at that time too.
Yeah.
So,
It's like Golgo 13 on like the NES, where it's just like, this is on Nintendo? Like, holy crap, whoa. Like, I can't, like, how was this ever made on, like, how did this ever come out here? Jesus, that's so dark.
Meanwhile, here's me not knowing anything about what Nintendo's reputation is supposed to be, and being a sociopath and just accepting, oh, okay, the main character's just doing this, cool.
Yeah, pretty much. But, I just did want to say that FF4, problems though it has, I still think it's great, and that FF6 sometimes I would say is my favorite, which is unoriginal, that the SNES trilogy was the best that FF ever got. But 5 is something else. That might actually be my real favorite.
5 is the best Final Fantasy.
Didn't 4-Job Fiesta just end, or is it still going?
I think it's still ongoing.
Awesome. I know at least 2. I think not 2. I'm sorry. I know at least one Twitch streamer that's doing a 4-Job Fiesta at the current moment. They're like just wrapping it up.
Excellent.
And yeah, like, you know, and since Rob wanted to kind of make this big deal about bringing up like both the Japanese end of the console with Super Famicom, yeah, I hope we do talk. I hope the discussion also goes to 5, because I discovered 5 quite a bit later in life. Like I'm sure like many people in North America did, because it never came out here. But like quite a bit later in my life, but I really fell in love with 5. The plot was really simple but well done, and like the character job system was really fun and just really neat, and like it just all these things you could do was just so clever and really well done. Anyway,
I think it speaks volumes that of all of the Final Fantasies out there are a lot of games, both from Square and from outside sources, independent or otherwise, that try to be FF5. There's not really any other games that try to be a specific Final Fantasy otherwise.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
Final Fantasy VII?
True, that's also true.
In what sense? What's the identifiable thing about 7? The materia system? Who does that?
Trails. Trails has the orbment system. That's very inspired by materia.
I'll give you that one. So you got one. What else?
I was more referring to like the influence that Final Fantasy VII had on the industry at large.
Sure, but they don't try to be the game. They try to make their own Final Fantasy VII. They're not looking at the systems. That's what I'm talking about.
Hey, before we go on here, just want to welcome Ray into the chat. And
Hi, Ray.
if you haven't seen their NES Ending Compendium books, you need to. And regarding my Blue Sky, it is gone. I have made the decision to exit social media. I'm surprised you didn't see the post I had up for, I think it was close to a week before I got rid of it.
Yeah.
But
I totally get, not wanting to deal with social media. I get it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm done. So
Yeah, I get you.
I'm looking forward to Volume 3 of the NES Ending Compendium, though. So,
Oh, yes.
I'm going to drop you an email at some point in the future, Ray. So, you haven't heard the last of me. But yes, definitely check out those books. They're extremely well put together and cover, at this point, basically every NES game that had an ending between 1985 and 1990. And
I've honestly been a fan of Ray's work. I've been a fan of Ray's work since I was like an 11-year-old, going on the internet at 11 years old and just like finding the video game museum website and just being hooked on it for hours. Like, oh, I didn't know what this game's ending was, and just like finding like Japanese games and like, oh, what's this game? This looks so cool, and just like, yeah, like literally being on that website for hours as a kid and just I'm so hooked. Like, I'm looking at everything, looking at old magazine ads and video game endings and just screenshots of stuff I never got to play and just being like, oh, I wonder what this plays like. Just, man, that website is fantastic. And Ray has done the Lord's work in video games with like the amount of really everybody who's ever contributed to the Video Game Museum website. Y'all have done the Lord's work in video games. Like, holy cow.
it's funny. I every so often I think of a game that I could get screenshots of the ending for, and I go check, and it's like, oh, it's been up here for a while. Never mind, I was going to submit it, but that's cool.
Yeah.
So, but
RPGs.
anyway, RPGs, yes.
Yeah, anyway, sorry, RPGs.
Well, let's say going away from the Final Fantasy train for a bit. I guess the train that got suplexed. And excluding some other RPGs that have been mentioned quite a bit in this roundtable, like Earthbound and Brandish and whatnot. Why don't we say a few words about Squaresoft's other big game that was an RPG?
Oh, yeah, Saga.
Rob, I know what you're trying to fucking do. I know that
it's Saga. They got it.
Are you talking about Breath of Fire, which Squaresoft published in America?
Yeah, let's go with that, please.
I haven't played it.
Well,
I haven't either, though.
Well, just to let you all know, Breath of Fire 1 was actually released with a subtitle. It's called Breath of Fire Chrono Trigger.
Okay, all right. I guess I feel like Bart. I feel like Bart on Bart's Gets Famous. Say the line, Bart. That's where.
Yeah, exactly. Say the line, Mike.
Okay, hang on. Satanga.
Yeah.
Do you want me to tag in?
Yeah, sure.
Oh boy.
Boop.
Okay. Chrono Trigger has an okay story that it follows in actually pretty good progression, has some music that is better done by other people, and a mechanical system that is neat on paper but is not fully realized. A lot of people like it.
That's actually a pretty good summation.
Yeah, that's,
and I know that, to pass the buck further, I know that Jay only thinks it's okay, if I'm not mistaken.
Damn, all right. We got some hot takes here, all right.
I gave it a 3.7.
I mean, it's not the worst game ever made, but
I mean, no. Let me just say this. I will never say that Chrono Trigger is a bad game. That's definitely that's really putting too much on it. I always say that it is a perfectly solid 8.5. I just don't agree with so many people out there thinking it's a 10 out of 10. That's just not right to me.
And that's what I wanted to hear, Mike.
Yes.
We did
yes.
it.
And
If only we had the Price is Right victory music.
I mean, like, this has become such a thing for me because I admit I just keep dragging the knife further. Like, there used to be times where I just keep on interjecting every time, like, you know, CT even just peripherally comes up. Like, yeah, no, I maybe have been a little eager to take it down a peg because it just kind of drives me a little bit batty that everybody, that, like, all these junk, like, top whatever lists out there, Chrono Trigger's already, like, number one, and, like, you know, why do you even tell the story if you already know how it's going to end? That's just kind of what I'm thinking with that.
I think the most fascinating thing about Chrono Trigger, a lot of people go on about its soundtrack, but honestly, every single Chrono Trigger cover I've ever heard sounds better than the game itself.
Yeah.
You know what? That is fair. I did want to say one thing very negative, legitimately actually negative, though. I'm going to smash the fucking jukebox if I hear Quarters of Time one more fucking iota. I don't know why that's the one everyone jizzes over. Like, there's a lot of really legit other good songs in there, but, like, I don't know. Why is it that the Dark Age music is just, like, you know, the fucking moon theme from DuckTales? That's what it's like to some people. And I also think that one's kind of overrated, but that, you know, that's a whole can of worms otherwise. It's...
My favorite DuckTales track is the African Mind song. I love that song.
Mine too! Thank you, Kyle. I agree.
That song is so weird because it's like, what if the NES did like Motown music? And it's like, it's fucking weird, but it's
very jazzy.
catchy. Yeah, it's so like jazzy. It's like, what if all these Japanese composers just like listen to a shit ton of Motown? And it's like, all right, guys, let's try to see let's try to mimic it. And it's like, you know, like put it through the like NES sound font, or like fucking, you know, instrumentize it for like 8-bit sound, and it's like, there you go.
Yeah, no, totally. I'm glad we're in sync with that one. It's like, but yeah, as for CT, like, I just think Chrono Cross is so much more of an interesting game. I won't necessarily say it's a better one, but it is, like, I always put it this way. Sorry, Kyle. Why don't you just?
No, I was gonna say, I actually have a really close friend of mine who's like in love with Chrono Cross. Like, they love it so much. Like, and plus, here's the thing. So my friend, the same friend who loves the game, she's from Trinidad and Tobago, and
oh wow,
like her finding a game that speaks to like tropical punk and like this like super like niche kind of a, I don't want to call it niche in the sense that like, no, it's only niche in the sense of just like how unknown it is, but just like how this super amazing like subculture, and like she loves how like the game nailed that, and like she's in love with the game. It's like one of her favorite video games of all time. So like, I'm happy that I now know more people who also love it too. Like, I gotta introduce her to y'all because like, she's in love with Chrono Cross.
And here I just like Chrono Cross because it prominently featured the sitar in its soundtrack.
Yeah, CC's soundtrack is a fucking hyper masterwork. That is the one that I want people to
Scars of Time remains the best intro track of all time.
Yes. Like, the only
my girlfriend is throwing the horns over here.
The only other one I think can maybe compete on the PlayStation is the intro track to Soul Blade. But like,
one thing.
I'm not familiar with that one. Go ahead.
I forget to. Kate, what's up?
What's up, Kate?
To this day, I've still never played Chrono Trigger.
I will say it is absolutely worth playing to see what you think about it. Like, for its massive, like, I don't want to discourage you from it, despite me admittedly being a little overeager.
It's a perfectly mid game.
Yeah, here's what I always say. Chrono Trigger is a very fantastic pint of vanilla ice cream. Chrono Cross is a raspberry peanut pickle swirl, and while that might not be everyone's taste, I just love that it exists. That's all.
I love vanilla, but also
I do too.
As far as that is concerned, I think probably one of the reasons I've avoided Chrono Trigger is admittedly just due to like personal preference, since I don't like Akira Toriyama's art style.
That's actually another thing I want to bring up. I mean, rest in peace, I respect his work, but I do not like how Toriyama draws humans. They all pretty much look the same. I'm sorry. His creature designs I can get behind.
I'm going to throw out, there's a reason for that. It's a publishing shorthand. He designs a character a certain way, you know what that character is going to be. You give them the Goku look, they're a hero. You give them the Gohan look, they're an innocent hero. You give them the Vegeta look, they're going to be a hard ass who has done, bad stuff, but is probably a good person.
And you give them the Frieza look, they're just fucking Hitler, basically.
Yeah.
Honestly, Frieza gets a lot of redemption.
Hitler! Really?
Shut up!
I obviously don't know enough about DBZ.
Yeah, okay.
Well,
Frieza does actually get a redemption arc eventually.
I'm sorry, I have to do this. So, Forneia, you're amazing. You're a great person, but
Slip of the tongues happen. Okay.
Okay.
I would know. I'm in the BDSM community. I know that one happens a lot.
Okay.
We have gotten very far off the track. Wow.
Allow me to put us back on the track. We were going to talk about Saga before we got derailed by this bullshit.
Yeah, I still haven't touched a single iota of Saga, but I know that's your thing, so go ahead.
Oh boy, howdy. Where do I even begin? I contributed to HG 101 books on the subject. There's a lot I can talk about, so contracting that for the amount of time we have, I will keep it strictly to the ones that appear natively on SNES. Romancing Saga is better played on its PlayStation 2 remake, which has recently been remastered for PC. Romancing Saga 3 is considered to be a masterpiece by a lot of Square Enix alumni and current executives who have actually been around for the game part of it, and not just the financial sector. And Romancing Saga 2 is probably one of the best games that they have ever made, and that got a remake late last year. And boy howdy, go play that. The original is super good. That one is approachable.
Okay.
Summarizing it is, I can't do it justice. You control a dynasty of like-minded people over centuries of generations in a singular effort to understand and counter the efforts of the 7 heroes. And it basically asks the question, what if you had an ethical empire? And it's kind of compelling in that sense.
Okay.
Is that even feasible? Well, I guess so.
Like I said, it's a compelling line of thought, and it executes on it very interestingly.
Sounds like it, yeah.
Okay, now I do want to say something here. I want to kind of wrap this up by midnight since I have to get up early tomorrow.
Okay.
So we're going to kind of keep the rest of the stuff brief, but there's a couple other things I wanted to touch on before we were done. So,
Sure.
One of them being that it seems like the Super NES has a ton of really good brawlers on it.
Yep, I can confirm. Confirm.
Yeah, the funny thing is, that's actually one area of action where I think it has an edge over the Genesis. I mean, the Genesis has the Streets of Rage trilogy, and that's, for the most part, unassailable, but I think the SNES has a greater quantity of quality brawlers on it outside of that.
Since we're doing that, and I know, Rob, you kind of want to have this to a certain limit because, you have to wake up early tomorrow.
Yeah.
Can I do a quick little speed run of, the best brawlers on the console?
Go for it. You're being touched.
Okay. All right. Number 1, very underrated game. One of my very favorite video games of all time. Super underrated. Final Fight 3.
Final Fight 3, yes! Fuck yeah!
Final Fight, yeah. Final Fight 3 is amazing, and it's the best of that series.
It's better than the arcade game. Yeah, I got it.
Final Fight 1 is a masterpiece and a legacy game, but Final Fight 3 does so much with the concept of Final Fight, and all of the extra inputs you can do are so much fun. The moves are so satisfying. Playing as Mike Hagar is one of the best beat 'em up experiences.
Yeah.
And playing Hagar in Final Fight 3 is one of the best beat 'em up experiences ever created. Because Mike Hagar in this game can run. He can do spinning pile drivers. He can do he can jump into the air, not only do a spinning pile driver, but he can do a fucking, a jump in the air suplex. He jumps into the air with the enemy and then does a, flying suplex. It's amazing. Final Fight 3 is fantastic. A game that I might get some weird looks for, because I know a lot of people have sort of said that a lot of people tend to find it a little too slow, but I still love it a whole bunch. I will say play the Japanese version. It's a more of a finished game.
I know where you're going.
But I'll say both titles though: Super Double Dragon / Return of Double Dragon.
Yes.
And here's the weird thing about this game. So this is the only Double Dragon game out of the original series that technically didn't have the original series creator involved with it, because he was busy. He was busy with other projects at Technos. But and it's weird because here's the thing though, and it's nothing against the creator of Double Dragon. I think he had some brilliant concepts, and I think he helped revolutionize the beat 'em up and create and really push it into a modern era. He helped really redefine the beat 'em up. Super Double Dragon is my favorite of any of the Double Dragons. Just straight up is the move list you have in Super Double Dragon / Return is amazing and massive for a beat 'em up. You get punches, you get kicks. As you know, in Double Dragon, your punches and kicks are separate buttons, which I actually really like. And you have extra move. Yes, you can parry, which is also really innovative for its time. I can't think of another game in combat where you can parry enemies' blows. And your move list is huge. You get a hurricane kick, you get low kicks, you get sweep kicks, you get 2 grapples in the game. So you can grapple. The first one is by hitting the block button. If you time it correctly, and if you can lure an enemy to attack you, if you hit the block button as they're about to punch you, you grab their punch, and you can just start punching and kicking them as you're grappling them, and then you can throw them. And if you continue to punch or kick instead of just throwing them, you do this succession of punches and kicks, and it's so satisfying. And if you grab an enemy after stunning them, after doing a successful combo, you can do the more kind of typical throw in Double Dragon / Super, and the Double Dragon beat 'em up genre, the typical throw, where you can do knee strikes, you can do elbow blows to the head, and you can throw them as well. Return of Double Dragon / Super Double Dragon is one of the most satisfying beat 'em ups I've ever played in my life. I love this game to death. Moving on, we have the super underrated. They're janky, but I still love them. I think they're still worth playing. They're fun, and I think they're a good conversation piece. The very underrated Rushing Beat series from Jalico,
which Brian just mentioned.
Yes. The Ninja Warriors, developed by Natsume. I mentioned it earlier, but yeah, the Ninja Warriors is a masterpiece, and probably one of the rare examples where the remake is better than the original game. The original Ninja Warriors by Taito is fine. It has an outstanding soundtrack because it's Zuntata. Zuntata never misses. But the Natsume version of Ninja Warriors on Super Nintendo is a masterpiece. Full-blown 10 out of 10. Sorry, Kate, you wanted to say something?
I still have something RPG related that I want to say at some point before we finish.
Okay, I'll wrap up. And then,
bye, Tristan.
funny enough, Kate mentioned this quite a bit earlier in the show, but TMNT 4 for Super Nintendo, Konami developed. Konami kicked off on Super Nintendo, and TMNT 4 Turtles in Time is fantastic, and also one of the rare examples of the home console port being better than the arcade game. I find the gameplay on the console versions just plays better. Like, I feel like the combos feel a lot more complete in the console versions, where the arcade version's still kind of running off of the original '89 Ninja Turtles game combat, where it feels just a little weird. But yeah, TMNT 4, just the Super Nintendo has so many really great brawlers.
Yeah. All right, Kate, you said you had something you wanted to say about RPGs?
Yeah, it's a game that I forgot to mention earlier, and I don't think has come up at all in this roundtable yet.
Uh-huh.
It's another Super Famicom import that I happen to really love, and that is Fire Emblem Genealogy of the Holy War. It is the fourth mainline game in the series, and it's also my favorite Fire Emblem game, hands down. I really adore just about everything about it, from the storytelling to the complex maps to the mechanics and the soundtrack. I really do think it's an excellent experience and absolutely one of my favorite games on the Super Famicom.
Yeah, I not knowing too much about Fire Emblem, I have played through one of the games, but otherwise I'm mostly a newbie to the series. I think it's a damn shame Genealogy never got over to the West in any official capacity. That seems like a miss on their part.
People have been hoping for a remake of that for years now, but I mean, there is an English patch for the Super Famicom game, and
it does have the issue that the middle happens in a different game.
Oh, that's weird.
I mean,
Gracia 7076 happens in the middle of a time skip that happens during Genealogy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's fucking weird. But
Kaga made weird games.
Designed.
Yeah. Very. Yeah. Perfect.
All right.
So
as a fun note, there is one character who's available in all three parts of that.
Okay. I gotta get into Fire Emblem more. That's all I'm saying. My part.
Hit me up sometime. I'll give you recommendations.
Hey, sounds good.
Okay. In order to go ahead and just kind of wrap things up here, there were, of course, obviously some other games I wanted to talk about. I love UN Squadron.
Yeah.
I read an article on that.
Yeah, it's such a great game.
Run Saber is awesome too.
Yeah. Any game that has the balls to shout its own name during the music.
Run Saber.
On top of that, it's a pretty darn good Strider clone.
Yep.
Yeah, pretty much.
And the one I actually do want to talk about briefly, because it's one of my old favorites, would be ActRaiser.
Yes,
Nice.
a childhood favorite of mine too.
Quintet.
Yeah.
Yes, Quintet.
Love
Yeah.
ActRaiser.
Yeah, we're not getting into the other games, but ActRaiser we could talk about briefly. I know you're a fan, Jay. Anything you'd like to say about it?
Definitely a nice blend of having that RPG elements when you're doing the towns section of it, where you can gain levels and building up the town and helping the people out, building it from scratch up.
Blowing up their houses so you can get optimal life points.
Yeah.
Exactly. So much fun.
Earthquake the entire fucking town and just rebuild anew. Like the god you are!
The Quake doesn't work on the stronger structures. You have to lightning them.
Dang.
But that's what I loved about it.
I'm actually an ActRaiser dissenter. I'm not a fan of it at all.
Oh, no
I get it.
worries. No worries. We've all had our hot takes tonight, Kate. No worries.
So, ActRaiser, for like people who aren't familiar with it, it combines a side-scrolling action platformer with a simulation, like town building kind of the game. And I personally am just not a fan of either half of it. I think the sim stuff, it's just not my kind of game, so there's that. And I also don't think the action platforming is all that engaging. And I also think the the music track that plays when you're in heaven in particular, I find it very grating to the ears. So yeah, I just didn't have a good time playing through it overall.
It's
I
probably
can't
the
fault you
worst
for that
track.
one.
It's probably the worst track in the game. Like, I get what it's
Yeah.
trying to be, because it's like trying to be like,
This epic holy theme, but like, wow, Yuzo Koshiro, could you have picked a worse fucking instrumentation sound? Like, just
I will ask you one question, Kate.
Sure.
Have you ever played the sequel?
I have
Oh,
not.
no.
I'm aware that it drops the simulation elements, so
Uh-huh.
that makes me actually kind of want to give it a shot. Maybe I'll do
I-
so someday.
It's actually very popular among speedrunners because it has no RNG and it is entirely skill focused.
Huh.
Yeah, that's
I
very
do
true.
think AR2 has some merits, and as a matter of fact, I actually very recently finally fucking beat it. Kind of a monkey I wanted to get off my back, as it were. I think
That's awesome.
I think it looks gorgeous, and that it really attempts like a legitimate orchestral soundtrack on the SNES is very laudable. But yeah, I just wish it weren't a sequel to ActRaiser, because that doesn't have any of the sim stuff. Makes me wonder why it was even called ActRaiser, besides the whole God thing and whatnot. And B, it is just a really brutally heinous game. I'm sure that the speedrunners who have practiced over it don't think it's all that bad, but to the layman, it's still a very evil game and has some really frustrating bits in it. So I feel I do not hate ActRaiser 2, but I feel very mixed on it, especially as a sequel to ActRaiser. That's basically my
I would like to just draw the comparison that it's kind of in the same territory that Super Metroid has. If you're new to the system, the levels, and the movement, it's going to be difficult until you get your hands on it. Once you're familiar, it's very enjoyable.
Yeah.
This is a game I'm not a huge fan of.
for those who want to play ActRaiser 2, but you might be a little intimidated by the American version, play the Japanese version. It's easier.
Wait a minute. Oh, we got fucking rental screwed with the... I never
Sure
knew that. No
seems that
wonder it's
way.
as frustrating as it is. That's the most... That is a huge peeve I have with 90s gaming, but that's its own other subject, so I'm not...
Yeah.
So then,
they have
Rob,
Yes,
I think it's time for us to close out.
I do agree.
I suppose.
So,
I just wanted to say, though, Hagane's great, the Fireman's great, and Assault Suits Valken's great. Cybernator's a stupid Western name. That's all I got.
Vulcan rules. I'm just going to leave it at that.
Yes.
Yeah, I'll
And
give
the
you-
other
I
Quintet
agree.
trilogy.
All right. So, who knows? Maybe we'll come back to the Super NES another day.
Still a lot to ground to cover, yeah.
There's
Oh,
a
yeah.
lot to talk about, yes.
Of course, if
Oh,
we
yeah.
do, we'll have to have another NES, Genesis, and TurboGrafx roundtable at some point.
At some
That'd
point,
be
yeah.
fun too.
Got to give them all equal time, you know.
Good.
Oh,
I hope you do.
So there's an idea. What about games that are on multiple platforms?
Ooh.
Yeah,
That's an
there
actual
was
idea.
actually a lot of cross-pollination between the Genesis and the Super NES.
I mean, aforementioned Maximum Carnage and Separation Anxiety were on both systems, so there's that.
Yep.
I don't know why those are the games I thought of, but they're there.
You're
Yeah.
welcome for writing an episode for you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Thank you for having us here. It's
Yeah.
been fun.
Yeah, no
Thank you so
problem.
much, Rob. I really
Always
thank
fun.
you so much, Rob. I always appreciate this stuff. Thank you.
I'm glad you're
Very
all
much
able to come in tonight. So, just to
It
go
was
ahead
fun
and
being back.
yeah. So we got a few more upcoming roundtables planned. We will probably in about a month be doing one all about 1980s cartoons.
Ooh.
Yep. We've got one planned for the Evil Dead series.
Yes. Nice.
And we will be doing a Mega Man roundtable at some point.
Hooray!
Yeah.
That'll
But
be fun.
the next one I'm actually pretty psyched about myself because you never hear about this series. It's like one of the most obscure, awesome series that everyone forgot, except for us cool people. 2 weeks from tonight, we are going to be having a Dyer's Place about Syphil and Ollie show.
If y'all remember that one got a silent response just now.
Yep. It's
What is it called?
Syphil and Ollie show.
I've never heard of it.
Then
That's great.
you
Oh,
need
yeah,
to be
I've never heard of
enlightened.
it either.
That's why Rob's doing a show on it. He wants to educate people more about Syphil and Ollie.
Yep.
Cool.
There's.
That's awesome.
I mean, I'll just say this much: the main characters on the show are Syphil. The whole thing is sock puppets and other kind of things, but it's just so surreal and bizarre at times. So you have the hosts are Syphil, who's the more sensible of the bunch, and Ollie, who's apparently off his meds all the time, and who likes to he comes on, they ask him questions and whatnot. He's kind of a mainstay on the show. His name is Chester.
Chester is a precious little cinnamon roll. I love him.
Yes, he is. I will tell you one thing about this show. It is crescent fresh. And if you don't know what that means, then you need to tune in next time.
I have two questions I want to ask about the Evil Dead and 80s cartoon roundtables. Just two quick things.
Yeah.
Number one, I very much hope someone in the 80s cartoon roundtable will mention Gem, because Gem is awesome. Gem is an awesome, fantastic cartoon with a great soundtrack. And number two, for the Evil Dead roundtable, I hope someone brings up Ash vs. Evil Dead, because that show is hilarious.
Of course.
Kyle, I can rest assure you, both of those will absolutely be satisfied. Don't you worry.
Good.
Good. Now, granted, we don't have a lot of planning done for the Evil Dead stream yet, but we'll be working on it once we're done with the Syphil and Ollie show.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And yes, our friend of the show, Snarb, will be our co-host for the Syphil and Ollie one, which I'm really looking forward to having his input on it. Because, we haven't done one with Snarb in a really fucking long time.
No, we haven't.
No, absolutely not.
Well, this is Precious Roy, and you kids better pay for that lap dance.
Oh my god.
So, Precious, what do you think about the Civil War corpses? Buy my apple cider. What? Suckers!
Precious Roy, making lots of suckers out of girls and boys.
Ding. Again,
if everyone's baffled, it is kind of this is maybe a more inside baseball stream than we usually do, but I really like the show myself. Maybe has one or two bits that maybe don't hold up as well morally today, but that's just like a really, really, really tiny small. It still mostly holds up for the most part, and
they did come back about a decade ago for a short time doing video game reviews. Except
that's right.
They were video game reviews for fake games. Like Red Head Redemption.
Oh my god.
Hey, what was it? That console there was like the Zeus 720 or something like that.
Yep.
Yeah, that was great. But you'll hear more about it in 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
So that said, thanks for everyone who came in and joined us tonight. And thank you all for being here. And we shall see you in 2 weeks, hopefully.
Take care, everybody. Have a good night.
Yep.
See you all.
Bye-bye.
I'll take care and thank you.
Cheers, everyone.
Yep.
Bye.